so this is the filling bottle.
Yep.
And what's this then? Please edit this bit out.
It's childproof.
What does that mean? You call me a child? It's got a bit of a smell to it.
Yeah.
I feel like it smells a bit alcoholic.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep a quick eye out for any leaks. I'm gonna get my fan. Okay.
I'm completely blocked from that one.
All I can see is the top of your.
Oh, I hope it's not that fucking loud all the time. Stop rolling.
What is up, guys? It's Luke Hill for KitGuru.
And James from KitGuru.
So we're here working together on a liquid cooled build. So basically, James is a bit of an expert with liquid cooling. I want to say a bit of a novice, but more like a complete novice when it comes to custom liquid cooling. I've never actually built a proper liquid cooled system, whereas you've done, how many? You've done a fair few.
One or two.
But you've done one or two really good ones, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, and if you haven't checked those out, make sure you go and check them out. You can like this video, you can subscribe so you keep up to date. You can help out the KitGuru website, the merch store, you know, buy a cool t-shirt like this.
Can't buy this one.
This one's the cool one, this one's a real cool one. James got the professional one on. But make sure you help us out. It takes a lot of work to do these videos and we hope you really like them. But anyway, back to this project.
Yep.
So you can see a glorious selection of hardware. And the reason we've gone with some of this hardware is I want a liquid cooled, proper liquid cooled test system for when I'm testing processors. So we came up with the idea, didn't we, to go full custom liquid cooling so that we can really test some of the hot and heavy processors, your Threadrippers, your 10-core, 10th gen parts, your heavily overclocked Ryzen chips. And we reached out to EK, who very gratefully sent over a bunch of parts that we are going to build.
Yep, hopefully. Hopefully everything goes right.
Yep.
You never know.
Well, okay, if it doesn't, we've got the power of Premiere and editing.
And we've got plenty of tools to mod and adapt and change things.
We've got a big screwdriver.
I'm not sure that'll work for everything, but...
Yeah, I think James is trying to tell me something maybe, because I've got a very big screwdriver, and I've also got...
a very tiny one.
Yeah, so, you know, each to their own. We need specific tools for specific jobs.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the hardware we've got initially, we've got Gigabyte Aorus, or the X570 Aorus Extreme motherboard. Initially, we're going to build this with the 3950X, so the Zen 2 Beast. But obviously, because this is going to be CPU test system, it's going to be slightly different hardware going in and out. Got the Aorus RTX 2080 Ti GPU, 32 gigs of Corsair Dominator Platinum memory, a couple M.2 SSDs, and then if we go on to the liquid cooling hardware.
Yep, we've got EK Quantum Kinetic 200mm pump res combo. It's got a D5 pump in it. Okay. And then we've got all the three different, so we've got an Intel TRX40 and an AM4 EK Quantum Velocity blocks.
So, like you say, Intel, that's 115X and 2011 as well, is it? Yeah,
that'll be 1200 as well.
Yep, sorry, yeah, 1200 as well. Yeah, so AM4 and then big boy Threadripper.
Yeah.
So that covers all the platforms we will be testing for the CPU test system.
That's right, yeah. 360 rad, 45mm thick.
Okay.
EK Vadar Furious Vadar, so these are up to 3000 RPM.
That's right, and they have good low speed control as well, don't they?
Just watch your fingers.
My nails need a bit of a cut, so maybe we'll test it out later.
Yeah, 10/30mm tubing, soft tubing, because you need to be able to quickly disconnect and swap between these different blocks and motherboards and stuff.
So this was critical. So we've all seen the hard tubing builds. They look absolutely fantastic, but this is a workhorse test system. So I need to be able to quickly and quite regularly switch between Intel motherboards and Intel CPUs, AMD motherboards and AMD CPUs, different CPUs in the same motherboard. So hard tubing is a complete no-go.
No.
So we've gone with flexi tubing, and we've also gone with quick disconnects, haven't we?
Yeah, it's all about function. So we've got one of these that's open now, but we've got quick disconnects. We've got a ton of quick disconnects to switch between the different blocks as and when you need to. Yeah.
And then we've also got some braided cables.
Some braided cable extensions from Silverstone. So we've got PCIe, EPS, and 24 pin. Just to make it look
So it's purely about function, but we want it to look good. As good as it can, but not hard tubing level good, because we don't need the headaches that brings. Certainly not. Especially not with my first proper liquid cooling experience.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It's about function, isn't it? That's what it is.
Certainly, yeah. So on this rad, just a quick diversion. This is a 45mm thick rad. How does that compare to your typical AIO rad then?
Well, your typical AIO rads are 27mm, so you're getting a bit extra thickness, more surface area, so it should perform much better than an AIO rad. And this is copper.
Okay.
The all-in-one are generally aluminium rads.
Okay.
So this should disperse heat better as well.
So you've got basically a thick copper rad, a proper high-powered pump, and a lot of fluid. That should hopefully give a pretty decent performance improvement versus
I mean, we've never really tested it, have we? So
we'll have to see then, I guess, won't we? It should, provided we build it properly, I guess.
That's the thing.
Fingers crossed. We'll do a great job, we promise.
And then we can test against one of the best AIOs on the market. We can use that Kraken X73, which we've tested before against other AIOs. We know that's a good one, so got a good AIO to test it against.
Yep, so that'll be good to see. Right, so I guess that's the introduction. We've got our tools, we've got our parts. Should we start building?
Why not?
Let's go for it.
Let's do it.
So we've cleared some space on the table. We're going to start building. First things first, obviously the motherboard. Now, it's up for debate. Some people like to go case and power supply first. I'm going to build the motherboard stuff first, outside of the box, because I'm a motherboard geek.
Yeah, I prefer to do it that way as well.
Yeah.
So at least we agree on something.
Good. Will be the first time. No, I'm kidding. Right, I'm going to get this out. And then I'm going to move the massive box out of the way. There's plenty of accessories with this board because Gigabyte kindly sent us over the X570 Aorus Extreme, which is one of the most beastly boards on the X570 platform. I'm just going to put this out of the way.
How much is it, that board?
Many, many pounds. I don't know how many, but I know many. I think this is the one that's like, is it like 700 quid or something?
I can imagine,
But the key thing about this board, and the reason that I was very, very keen to get this one, and happy when we got it, this is one of the very few, so I think the Aqua is the other one from ASRock, but this is the only full liquid cooled board that doesn't have any fan whatsoever. So no chipset fan, which is a big benefit because this is going to be a function system that's going to be getting hammered quite hard. I don't want any worries about the chipset fan or interference or potentially dying. I don't want any of that stress. And this has got, realistically, about the best VRM power delivery solution on the market. It's using the true high phase controller from Infineon, really high performance power stages. It's just an absolute beast of a motherboard with a hefty backplate, so I'm really not concerned for cooling with this. Very, very happy. So this will be a good test initially because we can test the Ryzen chip. I'm going to do the cool peel that I know everybody loves. And I've just completely ruined the peel because it's gone into 2 feet. Right, okay, so... Oh, it's gone into 3? No. Why didn't I let you do the stuff that involves some skill and precision?
It's fine. Don't worry. We can edit that out.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the world's worst peel. I'm just going to chuck this out of the way because that was absolutely dreadful. There's a sticker that says remove, so I guess...
Yeah, that means remove it.
Remove it, there you go. First things first, I could install the CPU, but as you can see, you've got some heat sinks on the motherboard. So I'm going to whip out these heat sinks and put in the M.2 SSDs first of all, and then we'll do the CPU, the RAM, and because it's built outside the case, we can then put it inside the case.
I'm just trying to peel this sellotape off without making too much noise while we're talking.
Now really, what I should be doing at this point is checking which SSD routes to which connection to make sure we're getting proper speed, because for our SSDs, do you want to go through the SSDs there? So we've got a WD Black SN750. That's a really good Gen 3 SSD that I've been using quite heavily. I really like it. You can get the heatsink version, which we also have, but because this board has got heat sinks built into it for the M.2 cooling, we're not going to be using the heatsink version.
What's this one?
And then for the high-speed SSD testing and for the games and some higher-end storage, we've got a Gigabyte Aorus Gen 4 2TB SSD. So that's one of the Phison-based Gen 4 drives, about 5 gigabytes per second read speed, proper Gen 4 connection. So what I really should do is, ideally, I should be putting the Phison-powered Aorus drive inside the CPU-connected Gen 4 slot, and then the slower WD one into one of the chipset slots. But because we have Gen 4 throughout with the X570 platform, it doesn't really make too much difference because you've got plenty of connectivity.
Does that normally come with a heat spreader?
It does, but as you can see, I've already removed the heat spreader. So yes. I quite like the way that Gigabyte and Aorus ship this actually. So the Corsair drive, the MP600, is one of the alternatives, and that ships with a really good heatsink on, which is great if you're going to be using the heatsink. But Gigabyte actually ships their drive without the heatsink on, which is very convenient if you're using a motherboard which cannot fit with a heatsink. So we've got our beastly M.2 cooling. Feel the weight of that. Actually, generally, that's not bad at all, is it?
Yeah.
That is a solid block of metal, so I'm really not concerned about any thermal problems with that.
No.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the standoffs out of the kit. Oh no, actually, yeah, I'm going to pull the standoffs and the screws out of the kit, and I'm going to whack in the M.2 drives.
Yep, get them in. You can't believe how much that looks like the Corsair drive.
I think it's the same OEM drive,
exactly
so it's Phison powered.
I've had that Corsair one stripped down with heat sinks off, and you easily confuse them.
Yeah, I've had it stripped down many times.
So hopefully, if you leave that one here for a few minutes and disappear, I'll just do a switch.
Well, is yours 500 gig and mine's 2 terabytes?
Yeah. So,
I might notice that when I launch up Windows.
Yeah, but you'll be gone by then.
Oh yeah, okay. You change your locks.
I'll just move different address.
Yeah, exactly. So this has actually got the Aorus fan commanders. And have a look what that is.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what that is, if I'm being perfectly honest.
It's the Aorus fan commander.
Oh really? Oh right, okay. I'm glad it says on the box. It's convenient.
And yeah, that is exactly what it is. It's just a box for plugging in all your fans, powered by SATA.
Good. We were having
SATA,
this SATA. Yeah. Don't ask me for pronunciation. My accent.
That's amazing.
We were
no Molex, thank God.
Good. Yeah, because we were debating just yesterday, weren't we? How we think SATA is a great connection, and Molex is perhaps had his time, in my opinion.
Yeah. A bunch of fan cables. Yeah. A bunch of proprietary fan cables.
Yeah, so it's using it, so it's like a USB style multi-pin connection. So that's quite. Maybe we'll use this for the chassis fan actually to give me some more control, because obviously being a test system, I want to keep the fan speeds and everything else controlled quite tightly. So we'll have a look at this.
See about that, yeah.
Right, so I've got my standoffs and my screws out. I'm just going to rip these with my extreme might and put these standoffs in. So they're both 80mm SSDs. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put one in the bottom slot, which is presumably, and I should check the manual, but I don't need to, I'm quite confident that's going to be connected to the X570 chipset lanes. So I'm going to put the slower Gen 3 drive in the bottom slot. And the reason I'm using the bottom slot is because the other drive will go in the top slot, which is probably the CPU connection, so you get full speed from the CPU Gen 4 lanes. And this separates them. This ensures you're not running too much bandwidth through the connection between the CPU and the chipset, which I believe is Gen 4x4 for X570. Okay, clearly my screwdriver skills are embarrassing. And the reason that they're spaced out is so you don't... Okay. that was a complete fail, there you go. Yeah, and the reason I spaced them out, one at the top, one at the bottom, is just so that they're not sharing their heat load between the coolers. So you can see with this big beast cooling one SSD, no problem whatsoever. So do you want to do the glorious peel on that? While I do the old standoff for this one.
I can't mess this up, surely.
Oh god, that's just.
I might have been a bit fast for some though. I'll do this one a bit slower.
Oh, we're gonna have to do like a slow motion version. Oh, it's just glorious.
What is it about that peel thing? I don't. Yeah,
I don't know.
Doesn't do anything for me.
It's almost become a meme on YouTube now, but I genuinely enjoy doing it as well. It's like when you get that bubble wrap and you just have to.
Are you one of those that, when you get something new, are you one of those that peels off instantly, or are you one of those that leaves it on for years?
No, I leave it on for years. Actually, the car, we just upgraded cars recently, and we sold our old car, which we bought in 2017, still had the peel on by the doors, because I didn't realise that underneath it was like silver, not blue. Blue. So I'm one of those that leaves it on until the end of time, and then when I dust my computer once every decade, then I might peel it off at that point.
So you don't actually get any enjoyment out of what's underneath the peel while you're using it?
No, I don't. I'm that pedantic. Right, to be fair,
I'm the exact opposite. I'll peel it off straight away.
Straight away. Oh no, I can't. Too many fingerprints. that would concern me. I mean, if I ever cleaned my PC, then maybe I would peel it off, but no.
Who cleans the PC, really? Everybody talks about cleaning the PC, but Do they actually do it?
Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I think I put that in wrong like 3 times. There you go. There you go. Right, so I'm just going to tighten down this bottom one, and I can't remember which screw's which, so let's go with a guess. So if you want to do the peel on the individual one as well.
Yeah. I'm not going to do it slow, this one, straight off.
Oh, straight off, right. Yeah.
No messing.
Yeah. Brutal. So I've reviewed quite a lot of X570 boards, obviously on KitGuru, and like I say, shameless plug, make sure you check out the content. But I'm really quite impressed by the way that this large slab of metal can give all of its cooling potential to one SSD here. That's really quite good. Because we do see M.2s, they get really quite hot, especially these Gen 4 drives, because they're pushing such high write speeds especially. So yeah, this looks like a pretty good heatsink indeed. Good job, Gigabyte.
So why do other X570 boards even bother with a fan?
I guess it's because the X570 chipset itself is like, it can comfortably take over 15 watts if I remember correctly.
Right.
Which is, if you think over 15 watts, kind of some of the Intel Ultrabooks, for example, with like a 15 watt processor, there's quite a lot of energy to dissipate. So I guess they take a fan for that reason, to cool down the chipset. But I think there's also an element of Gigabyte is really designing a massive, massive heatsink here that can cool it proficiently, whereas the other vendors perhaps haven't spent as much time with R&D to produce this caliber of heatsink by the looks of it.
And it's going to be cheaper, isn't it? Just put a smaller heatsink and a cheap fan on. Yeah,
that's a very good point. Yeah, typically it would be cheaper. I think the R&D costs alone for this level of heatsink, plus probably the manufacturing costs, because this is it's not a basic design, to be fair.
No.
There's some specific angles cut out there.
It's a nice.
It's probably going to be quite
chunk of metal.
heavy. Yeah, it is certainly. Yeah, I do like a good chunk of heatsink.
Careful what you say. I wondered what was coming then.
Oh no! I'm very keen on my heatsinks. Right, so that should be done. So we've got the WD drive in the bottom, the Gen 4 drive up top. Happy with that.
That's quite nice, that I/O shroud as well.
Yeah, I do like that. Yeah. This is one of the things, I really like modern motherboards, to be fair, with the I/O cover, the integrated rear I/O shield. They're just such small touches, but they add such a premium effect to the board. I mean, you look at this board, as far as I'm concerned, that is an absolutely gorgeous board.
It is nice, that, yeah.
And this is not a shameless plug for Gigabyte or anything. They did help us out with this board, but I mean, that is just stunning. Yeah. I'm just going to say it as it is.
I agree, it's a good board. Nice.
Right, next up, let's go for the processor. This should be nice and easy, hopefully. So,
anything to peel?
Hopefully not, otherwise we got bad days. So just take the pin out. Very easy. Here you go. Here's a question. I should be using a glove really, because there's a bit of thermal paste left on there, but I'll get a tissue shortly. Here's a question. Intel or AMD for processor and socket? Do you prefer the pins or the pads? Or do you prefer the pins in the processor or the pins in the socket?
Pins in the... it's difficult. Are the pins in the socket just?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I prefer the Intel approach, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I think the AMD approach serves a purpose, but I do quite like the Intel approach for pins.
I've not managed to kill either yet.
The thing I find difficult, and everybody in the YouTube section is going to call me a noob at this point, but when you pull out a heatsink and the CPU comes with it, and it's that heart in mouth moment, and you think, I know you should do the twist method and you should warm it up a bit, but I've done that many times, more times than I care to admit.
They both have the pros and cons, because you've got that problem with pulling your heatsink off and potentially pulling your CPU out, but with the Intel pin on the socket approach, if you spill any thermal compound and it gets in, gets around those pins, you've got to be really careful cleaning it out.
Very good point. I've done that more times than I care to admit. Yeah. Plus, with motherboards as expensive as they are these days, because they're so premium, I don't know if I'd rather kill a motherboard or kill a CPU. I mean, it's up for debate, to be fair, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right, memory, Corsair Dominator Platinum RGB. I reviewed this recently. Really good kit. This, in my opinion, is is the best looking kit on the market. I know you've got a strong opinion on the Team ARGB kit, which is really good looking as well.
Yeah, it's a bit more subtle with their RGB. That's really flashy RGB. So
yeah, I'm a complete sucker for white. I love white.
I like
absolutely love white.
Yeah.
And the gold, I really like the gold touches as well, kind of white and gold.
I didn't really notice that before, that gold on there,
Yeah, so these are really premium modules. Yeah. This is, so we got a 4x8 gig kit, 32 gigabytes, 3600, and I think I can't remember what C number, I think it was a C16 C18, sorry, so 18, 19, 19, 39. Not exactly the tightest timings, but pretty good, especially for this test system where we want to stick to 3600 because I think it's a good sweet spot for both Intel and obviously AMD with the Infinity Fabric. And this is Micron E-die, so compatibility, no concerns.
Which one do you prefer then? Do you prefer that or the Trident Z Royal?
No, that's a tough question. I think I do slightly prefer this Dominator.
Yeah.
However, I do really like the Trident Z Royal. And the big benefit with the Trident Z Royal is it's a bit shorter.
Yeah.
Because this can cause headaches. But if we're going with liquid cooling, we shouldn't get too many interference concerns on this big E-ATX motherboard. I mean, you cannot beat this for looks as far as I'm concerned. It's just absolutely stunning. I love it. I absolutely love it.
It is nice. That's available in black as well, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yes. I think you're a black module.
Yeah.
Cheers.
That's not got the flashy gold bits on there, has it?
No, it hasn't. So this uses black bits. And you'll notice actually one of the subtle differences. It says now Dominator Platinum RGB instead of Corsair.
Oh yeah.
So you've got slight differences in the text.
Yeah.
Looks cool.
Yeah.
Put that back there. So 4 modules, 8 gigs. I'm not entirely certain what we will use going forward for our actual testing. Right now we're going to test with this memory, see how it goes, but we might switch out to maybe some 3600 C16 or maybe 3200 C14, depending on what processors we're dealing with. 3600, this kind of timings is still pretty expensive, so if we're using some lower end processors, maybe we'll switch it out. If we're using some higher end, maybe C16 makes sense.
Yeah, that team group memory I looked at a couple of weeks ago, that was 3600 C14.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Is that Samsung B-die? Do you remember? I'd imagine it probably is.
I imagine it is, yeah. But that was 1.45 volts, which is not too bad, is it?
It's probably fine with AMD, perhaps pushing a little bit with Intel, but yeah, I mean, 3600 C14, that is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 3600, obviously you get a 1-to-1 divider, and I know you can change the Infinity Fabric and you can overclock it to maybe 1900, especially with the new XT chips, they seem to do 1900 quite comfortably. Therefore you could run maybe 3733 or 3800 on your memory, but 3600 with an 1800 Infinity Fabric, 1-to-1 memory to Infinity Fabric clock, runs a really nice system in my opinion. So let's just get that installed.
Yeah,
voila.
Job done.
I love installing memory. There's something satisfying about the clip. Do you know the other motherboards sometimes have the single latch and you don't get the feedback from the clip?
Why did they do that?
Well, the single latch is good because if you've got a graphics card in the top slot, if you have to knock out your latch, you can interfere with the graphics card. So I think that's why the single latch was kind of invented, first of all, for when you used to do like quad SLI or quad crossfire.
Yeah.
Now, it's not really that big a deal, but I think it just... I don't know, there's something satisfying about the double click in my opinion.
I think these need to be improved.
The latches.
The latches on the PCIe slots.
I completely agree, because with the heat sinks and the M.2 covers for boards these days, you cannot reach that.
When you've got these backplates on your GPUs now, they're really difficult to get to, aren't they?
I usually try and joust a screwdriver in there.
Yeah.
But the risk is, if you prod the board, you're going to have a bad day.
I've done it before.
Have you killed them?
I've not killed the board,
okay,
no,
okay.
but I've done it and I've gone, oh.
Have you not killed the board? Have you not killed the board while we're on camera?
I've not killed a board.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever killed a board, but I've killed some components on a board.
Right, okay.
But the board still worked or functioned.
Just about with it, hanging on by a limb.
I've blown some fan headers before.
Oh, no doubt, yeah. I've used fan headers to blow a board on accident, but let's move on from that, shall we?
Yeah.
Right, so I think we're basically good to go on the installation. We've got our 3950X processor installed. We've got our 4x8 gigs of Corsair memory. We've got a pair of M.2 SSDs. I think we're good to go, so we can move on to the case, I guess.
Yeah, I think so,
good. Let's go.
What case are we using?
We will be using the Phanteks P500A. So Leo reviewed this recently, didn't he?
Yeah.
Very fond of it.
Yeah.
And actually, I watched his review and I was even more impressed than when he spoke to me over the phone about it. Yeah. Okay, so at this point, I've clearly moved around elsewhere because I'm going to start with the D15. The reason I put the D15 on is because we need to do some air cooling testing. So do you want to take us through this? Why it's important to do this before doing your proper liquid cooling build?
We just want to get some figures, don't we, to see what kind of improvement we're going to get with all this expensive custom liquid cooling.
Yep.
So we want to install the D15, run some thermal performance tests. What we're going to do for that?
Yeah, Don't know. We're going to load the CPU, so maybe run like a Minesweeper or something. I don't know. We'll do something proper.
Super prepared as usual.
Yeah, exactly. Clearly we've practiced this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got the D15 on. We're going to see some performance figures, but also it's actually genuinely important that we build the system primarily and preferably air-cooled to make sure everything's working. Because realistically, the last thing we want to be doing is putting in hundreds and hundreds of pounds worth of liquid cooling hardware, building it, filling the loop and everything, just to find out we've got a dead RAM stick or a dead CPU, and we need to pull everything out. So air cooling, build the system as we would, and then we'll put in the liquid cooling afterwards.
Maybe we should have done this beforehand off camera, on like a test bench or something like that.
Probably, but you know.
Next time.
Yeah, we'll learn. No, I think it's cool to show how to install a D15.
Yeah. Nobody's ever seen that before.
No, James, entertain us. Because it's going to take me a while. I haven't used the D15 for a long time.
Me too.
I've used it many times with AMD, but I think because I've got my D15 installed in my work system, I just haven't used it for a long time. And I used the U14S TR4 edition the other day, and I honestly forgot how much I love Noctua for air cooling. Really, really good air cooling, so I'm going to be very keen to see if the EKWB hardware can really beat it. Perhaps even with noise performance as well, because that's where Noctua has always done particularly well.
Yeah, was that the thermo siphon?
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Yeah, so the Ice Giant. I think they should be releasing their retail version very, very soon, actually. So that was quite interesting, and that'll be another good test actually, is to see if this EK cooling hardware, how it compares against that thermal siphon technology. So that's something genuinely different. It's quite good that we're building this test system because we've got more projects than we perhaps initially thought coming up for it. Right. So which spacers am I using for M4? Is it the grey ones or the cream ones?
Well, you should know. You've used it before.
Yeah, it was like ages ago.
I think it's the white ones.
The white ones.
Maybe. I'll just not look at that manual again off camera.
Okay, if you not look at the manual, and I'll just distract everybody while fumbling around to see which is white or grey.
It's grey.
It's grey, isn't it? It's grey. Okay. Let's edit out the bit where you convincingly said it was white. I think... Do I screw down? You see, I like having big hands until I deal with all the PC stuff.
This side up.
This side up. Which way does it go? Oh my word. Yeah, we probably should have practiced this before. This is a liquid cooling build where I can't even install a D15.
I'll tell you what.
Do you know what? I'll just give the manual here. I'm guessing the 4 means AM4.
They go with the curve facing the CPU.
Curve inwards. Is the 4 for AM4? Or is the 3 for AM4? Yeah, the 4 for
4 for AM4 would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would.
It would make sense. That's why I chose the other one. To be fair, I mean, all jokes aside, I can install an air cooler before somebody in the YouTube comments says that I'm a clown because I can't install an air cooler. I can. Just haven't dealt with the D15 for a while.
See, when you use so much hardware, you know, it's easy to confuse one for another and get a bit mixed up. And
yeah, it really is, to be fair, especially when you're looking at Intel versus AMD mounts, because they can be quite different indeed sometimes. And some coolers use the stock AM4 brackets, some just do not.
No.
That's one thing I will give to Noctua actually, is that the mounting hardware is consistently amongst the best on the market as far as I'm concerned. It's consistently very, very good. Okay. My installation abilities, however, not consistently good.
You need a bit more practice with that screwdriver.
I know.
Maybe get one of those electric ones.
I'm not American, so no.
Oh.
Oh, I'm waiting for the comments now. I'm going to have started a war and going to start a massive debate. To be fair, I've seen many American like YouTubers and tech tubers using a motorized screwdriver. I've never even seen one on sale in the UK.
Not those tiny ones.
No.
I mean, if you work in building trade and stuff, then yeah, fair enough.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But not those like...
There's little motorized. I wouldn't even feel safe using one for like a motherboard or something, because if you over tighten it,
I'm pretty sure they'll have some kind of torque setting on them.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
I'd hope so anyway, at least.
But
and looking at the size of them, I can't imagine they could, you know, handle a lot of torque anyway.
You would be surprised how many times I've locked a standoff to a motherboard. I think I think I accidentally messed your table up once, didn't I?
I remember a motherboard coming from you with the standoff still attached to it and a screw,
How did you find out that the standoff was still scratched?
Because
okay. A 4-inch gash in your table, was it? Okay. Should we use the Noctua default thermal paste for now? Is it the XT1 in there?
Is that what you're going to use on the... We need to keep this...
Good point, very good point.
Accurate,
if I was any good at testing, I'd know that we want to use the consistent one, so should we go for some of the Corsair?
We've got a ton of this TM30, how do we use the...
So, should we go for the XT, the higher end one? Yeah, should we go there?
There's some in that tube.
What thermal paste does the block come with by default?
It uses Thermal Grizzly.
Does it?
Yeah.
Is the Thermal Grizzly in there?
I'm sure, yeah.
Should we use some of that?
Yeah, because we've got a few tubes of it.
Oh, perfect. I've heard nothing but extreme praise for Thermal Grizzly. I've never really used it myself, to be honest.
I've used the liquid metal.
Have you?
Yeah.
Is it actually as good as people say?
I've not used any other liquid metal to compare it against, so
okay.
I'm not sure. But it does seem good. It does seem...
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, it's a decent size tube. Yeah, I've never really used Thermal Grizzly, to be honest. Not out of kind of ignorance or anything, just I've never really needed to, because obviously I primarily deal with CPUs and motherboards and not kind of like yourself where you're dealing with testing the virtues of coolers versus other coolers.
Yeah. The only problem with liquid metal is you can't use it with bare copper.
Yeah.
As well. Well, you can, but it just reacts and it's not...
Like galvanic corrosion or something, isn't it? Right, so let's go for the...
Oh, we've been talking about this
earlier. Here we go. I'm going for the method that I prefer. So I actually quite like the old spot method. So one in each corner, because we were saying earlier when we even oh my god, right, okay, we're not gonna have much left at this rate. Even how the sound that's a very satisfying sound. Right, okay. Wow, that's very nice, isn't it? The viscosity, that is great to work with. Yeah, even with AM4, the heat spread is actually deceptively large compared to like Intel mainstream. So I prefer this multi-spot approach where you can then rest the cooler and get a nice even spread. So let's go with that. If I'm wrong, make sure you let me know in the comment section down below. I know you will.
Do you ever use the X pattern?
Yeah, I quite like the X pattern, but the only thing is I find that the mean position of the bulk of the thermal paste can sometimes be a bit center weighted, so you can, some areas on the edges can be a bit left out, shall we say.
Yeah, that's similar to just using the blob in the middle. I found that a lot recently.
With AM4 especially, I'm really not a fan of the blob method.
No,
I'm really not.
No, it works well on Intel.
It does, yeah, because you've got the smaller heat spreader.
Yeah.
And it's like we just said, you only realise how much smaller the Intel heat spreader, and this is not a negative or a positive, it's just, you know, it's just a difference. But you only realise how much smaller the Intel heat spreader is when you go and then pick up an AM4 chip straight away, or a 2011 chip, or a Threadripper chip that's like the size of your hand.
Yeah.
Right, so let's make sure it's the right weight. Yeah, knock it up. Position, I don't know. Yeah, position this on. Good. Give it a little wiggle. So this is what I usually do, is just give it a little wiggle, just so that thermal paste, with pressure applied, just so that thermal paste is spreading. And I'm going to use the massive screwdriver. So
yeah. I'm going to get it from this side while you're doing it from the other side.
Oh, double the bandwidth.
Yeah, look at this.
Oh, this is elite level.
Fastest D15 screw down in history.
Should we have a race? Oh, I'm done. Done it. Yeah.
Surely not.
I only said to have a race because I knew I was done. I'm never going to have a race I wouldn't win, was I? Right, here we go. Let's put the centre fan in. I must say I like Noctua's fan mechanism as well, it's really good.
We're struggling for height at this side with that lovely Dominator memory that you love so much.
This is going to be fun.
Maybe we could put the other fan on that side in a pull.
We could, or we could test it as a D15S, because that's just a single fan D15. Yeah, let's just go with the D15S. Fundamentally, yeah, we want to see how much of an improvement liquid cooling gives us. But also, really, at this point, we kind of want to just test that everything works properly. Yeah, okay, kind of a D15 with dual fan or triple fan or whatever might give you a couple of degrees better, but we're hoping that it's not going to be only 1 or 2 degrees in it for air versus AO versus liquid. We're hoping the liquid is convincingly better. Yeah. So it just gives us a reference point more than anything, so I think maybe we'll go single fan for now. And I'm just looking at the plane to see if, yeah, the GPU should be fine on that plane. Yep. Backplate's not too big. So we're good. So I guess should we tidy this up and then install it in the case?
Yep.
Okay, so case time. Phanteks P500A, already introduced, haven't we? Leo reviewed this case and it looks like an exceptionally good case. And I think for liquid cooling like this, we were speaking, weren't we? And while I'm talking about this, I'm going to take the glass panel off because the reflections are horrible. I mean, glass looks glorious, but my word, is it difficult to shoot with.
Yep.
I'm going to put this somewhere safe because I know I will break it.
Don't smash it.
Yeah, oh, right, you're challenging me. Uh-oh, is that going to slip? Right, we're cool.
Perfect.
I think it's in a groove in the floor, so no, it's fine. Phanteks P500A. Cricket. Look, note to case manufacturers. Look how simple that is. All of them segregated. There's no stupid bag full of all miscellaneous connections, so you have to spend half an hour filtering them out. This is great. So all I'm going to do here is grab out the necessary motherboard screws, and look how quick and simple that is. Small quality touches, and this is why I personally like Phanteks cases. I actually use 2 Phanteks cases for my, or one for my work system and one for my gaming system. I really like them.
Yep. It's a good solution.
Yeah, P500A. So as far as sizing goes, this looks absolutely ideal. So this is an E-ATX motherboard, which means it's not longer. That's XL-ATX, it's longer this way. It's actually wider. But Phanteks on their website highlight, my word, that's heavy, highlight just how much width you can get away with. So we've already checked that the board fits because the website says it will, and yeah, that looks pretty good. Comes just before these grooves. Integrated rear I/O shield, which is superb. Do you want to put that on the screwdriver for me, please? Or do you want to screw it in, actually? I don't know if you can reach from that angle.
It's a bit of a funny angle.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you want me to try and hold this board?
Yeah, go ahead. So we're just going to screw this in. Fits well in the case. The reason we picked this case, like I said, we didn't want something that was too big, but it still has plenty of room for liquid cooling hardware. Right, so I'm going to go for the old, try your luck with the screws and just go for some different ones. I think that top right one's a bit weird, but it should be fine, hopefully. Until we break something down.
So we've got plenty of space for cable routing here, yeah?
Yeah, we have. So interestingly with this motherboard, because it's such a premium board, it's got a lot of right-angled connectors. Actually, you might need this big screwdriver. I knew this would come in handy for something, the big beast.
It's posi head though, that.
I don't know what it means. No, you did tell me this earlier.
It means it's got extra grooves on. It's not Philips heads have got a different groove to posi. Posi have extra grooves.
Is that why I've got the screw stuck?
Possibly.
Oh no.
You should be able to get more torque on a posi.
I think it's stuck in the standoff, right? Okay.
Without coming out.
It's okay.
So is that another standoff that's going to be stuck to a motherboard?
Yeah, it could be. Funny enough, I think it's a Phanteks case I did it last time. It's an expertly installed motherboard, clearly. But that looks. I'm not sure what you think, but that looks absolutely superb in this case.
I can't see it.
Okay, just take my word for it.
It does look good. From the angle I can see, it does look good.
Yeah, okay. So your right angle 24-pin connector. This is going to be a bit of a headache for us, I think, but we've got the extension cables, which give us a bit of a bend. So even if this looks a bit rubbish, if it's bending outwards, like we said earlier, it's a function system versus a form system.
Yeah.
And then we've got some other right angle connectors, which typically are great for cable management, because with an E-ATX board like this, you'd typically be using a really big full tower case, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But here, there's just a bit of quirkiness, because realistically, it's kind of a slightly bigger mid-tower. So we might have a few little headaches, but overall, given the quality of the motherboard, it's worth going for those headaches for the performance that this board is going to give us. So I'm perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, I can imagine with that right angle 24-pin, you might be struggling with the standard Seasonic cables.
I agree, yeah, because they apply a nice black shrink wrap, don't they? But yeah, that limits the bending quite a bit. So this is one of the genuine, real-world usage of extension cables, actually, outside of just looking cool. Because you do get, certainly with the braid, you get a lot more, I mean, you get way more flexibility, don't you?
Yeah,
so, in fact, we just plug it in now, just to make sure it goes in fine.
Which is, it'll probably not fit.
You are?
It'll probably not fit.
Why? Oh, no.
Just because we've torqued it up.
Yeah. Oh, smooth as you like, straight in.
Lovely.
He says. Oh my god.
I'll take your word for it.
Easy as anything. Come on, I haven't been to the gym for weeks. As in,
you know what
when I
might make
say
it
weeks,
easy?
I mean years.
You know what might make it easier?
Oh, I think that's it. Oh my word. That's my exercise for the day done. Whew.
Look at this.
Oh, gee, thanks for that. I would have made it easier if I struggled for 2 minutes doing that. That's way easier. Right, there you go. Yeah, so I think we just have that coming outwards when we're ready, because it's a cool looking braid anyway.
Yeah.
Again, function over form. So what should we do next? Seems like we're still in the process here of building up the air-cooled test system to make sure it all runs nicely. I reckon we go for graphics card next. Do you agree? Or should we go for power supply next? Maybe?
I think we might want to connect some of these. Anything up on the bottom there now? Is there anything there?
Oh yeah, I forgot about those.
Yeah.
Yeah, front panel connections.
Oh, are they?
I'm so used to using a test bench. I never plug anything in.
That's it. Yeah.
The power and reset buttons. So.
They're quite nice. Those power and reset.
Yeah, they are quite nice actually.
Yeah.
In fact, we could use those initially.
So what have we got down there? Have we got a front panel down there to connect up, or is it elsewhere?
I'm not sure we have got a front panel. I think we've got a breakout connection. I reckon for now, for the air-cooled test system, let's just use the power and reset buttons.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then when we're doing a bit more tidying up laterwards, then we'll connect it.
Let's do it.
Let's go with that.
So then you can, if you want to install your GPU, if you want to do it now.
Yeah, should we go for the GPU?
Yeah.
Where is the GPU? Here comes the beast. So, Gigabyte Aorus RTX 2080 Ti. If you watched any of our motherboard or CPU reviews, you'll have seen this card. We use it very consistently. This is a beefy triple slot cooler. I mean, it weighs an absolute ton. But it's got, well, you noticed yesterday, didn't you? It's got this really cool fan design. It's got two big blowers, but it keeps to a standard triple slot design because you've got some chunks cut out of this middle fan so that it can slip underneath the blades of the fans surrounding it. Really smart design. Yep. The cooler on this is fantastic, and the rear I/O is very good actually as well. So if we just whip out the slots, and this is going to go in the second slot, isn't it? So
yep.
The second slot case-wise, obviously the first slot GPU-wise, and that's because it's almost always going to be X16 on an X570 board.
Just going to see if I can tidy this cable up while you're doing that.
Okay.
Are we using cable combs, or are we just going to...
we could do.
I don't think we need it on here because I don't think you're going to see enough of this cable for it to do anything.
That's fair enough. I'm actually really quite impressed. I like those braided cables. They look pretty good indeed. Right, so I'm going to install this.
we're not getting a cable comb on that. No chance.
Fair enough. Okay, let's install. Wow, I can feel the weight of that card hanging already. It screws in pretty quickly. Okay. I took out 3 slots, and I realized it's a 3-slot card with 2-slot I/O.
Yeah.
It's almost like I like to waste my own time. Got this nice slot in the case as well. I think we probably will use that cutout, I reckon.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Just go straight up there.
Yeah.
This is another subtle feature that you've seen on cases in recent years, but such a smart but subtle design move in my opinion. Because it used to be quite difficult when you were bridging cables over from underneath from the rear I/O tray, from the motherboard tray. It was quite difficult, but if you do a straight run up there, it's certainly a lot easier.
I think this case comes with the Phanteks GPU support bracket as well for the back.
Oh really?
I think so.
Oh wow, okay, that's...
It might be in that accessory pack.
That's convenient, because we could probably make use of that. It does have vertical GPU mounting, so we could have installed the card vertically, because it takes triple slot cards. However, it's probably a little bit close to the side panel for my liking, so I might do some testing in future to see if it makes too much of a difference. But right now, I'm more inclined to go with the conventional layout for the GPU, because we know we've got enough space in just about for the liquid cooling hardware in the front anyway. And
it comes with a bracket for vertical mounting.
Yes, yeah. But it doesn't come with a riser card, so you'd have to get the riser card separately, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
How does one use this?
That goes on the rear, or on the right hand side of the case.
Pardon?
Yeah. It's the old lever it up from the other side trick. You lever that corner, and it lifts this corner up. You lever that corner down, and it levers this corner up.
Yes.
Do you know the prongs that stick through to the other side of the case on the...
Oh yes.
On the I/O shield, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Well, that levers those downwards, which in turn lifts this corner of the card up. So in theory.
Okay. How do I put it? Ah. So like...
No, it goes in the back.
I'll do
right around here.
Should we turn the case around while we're doing this bit?
Yeah.
So if we grab an end each and turn it around. Okay. Ah, I see, so there's some prongs there. Ah, there's 2 holes as well, right, okay. So I'm guessing that goes... Oh, I think I've done it the wrong way.
See, they line up with these holes here.
Oh, those holes. I was looking at the wrong holes. Okay.
So you put that in, push down on that, and that lifts. Oh yeah, and it works. I can see it working.
Oh wow. Should we turn that around so we can see exactly what it's doing?
Turn it back, and I'll push down, and you can.
Yeah. Okay. Let me grab it out a sec.
Right. Can you see that?
There you go.
Can the camera see that?
I believe so. This is the glorious graphics card.
Right, let me try and get in position. Oops. See it?
Oh wow, yeah, it does. Okay, it does actually work.
Yeah. So you have to put pressure on that, tighten it up while you're putting pressure on it, and that lifts that up. But you also need to be looking round this side to see if it's level, because if you put too much pressure on it, it's going to be opposite to sag.
Anti SAG.
Uncle sag.
Wait. There's a dad joke if ever I've heard one. Right.
That's it.
Yeah, okay.
So,
to be fair, it's not actually that much sag anyway.
It's quite good card
it's
for it.
It's pretty good card to be fair. They've done well with the backplate and the cooler.
But at least you know what that's for now.
Yeah.
Next time you get a Phanteks case and you're looking at that thinking, what the hell is that? It's a Anti SAG GPU bracket.
Stop sag.
Yeah. There's no worse than sag.
Tell everyone you know. Right, power supply next?
Yeah.
Yes, let's go with the power supply
What
next.
power supply we're using?
Seasonic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
So we've got the Seasonic, it's the Prime TX1000. We've used Seasonic for years. I've never had an issue. And I know that sounds... I've never had an issue. It's not really a good performance metric. But yeah, they're just pretty much bulletproof as far as I'm concerned.
There's a lot of things you don't have issues with, isn't there? Power supplies isn't one. Power supplies you have issues with.
You can, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, a power supply... This is the... We've used it for years and we probably use and abuse power supplies as much as, you know, up to a pretty high level, I would have said. And the fact that we just never have issues, we never have problems, never have to stress about the warranty or break-in or anything like that, that's actually just a big deal. They're one of those things, you want them to just work and just work consistently. Because a power supply, when it's doing its job, you don't know. Yeah. When it's not doing its job, you certainly know.
Yeah, and that's how they go like that. That's it. The power supply works and then it stops working.
Yeah, that's the thing. It works fine until it doesn't, and that's never a nice situation. Yeah. I'm not sure if I've actually experienced a really bad power supply blowout personally.
I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
Is it as scary as it is?
It's a loud bang, smoke, and you might see a little bit of a flash of a flame.
Oh, okay, wow. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's not something I want to experience.
But that's usually, really cheap. That's why you don't cheap out on a power supply.
Yeah, I agree.
That's one thing you don't cheap out on. You can cheap out on other things, maybe like fans and less critical things, but never cheap out on a power supply.
No, and to be fair, with warranty these days, so this is Sonic, I think, it's a 7 years warranty, or some of them, I think some of them 10 years or 12 years.
I think this is 12 years.
Yeah, so it's something ridiculous. Basically, it's going to be like the last power supply you buy until everything changes, you'd imagine.
Which might not be long.
Which to be fair, might not be long, yeah, that's a good point, actually.
If Intel gets its way with 12 volt only.
Yeah, well, that looks like an interesting new spec, but for now, we're going for the big stuff. So these are the CPU and 8-pin. So 8-pin and 8-pin for the CPU, because we've got dual 8-pin for this board.
Yeah.
A lot of the X570 boards came with like 8 plus 4 or 8 plus 8. And it was quite justifiable, to be fair, because if you really push in a 16-core chip, like really pushing it, probably with extreme cooling, you can put a bit of stress on that 8-pin, I think, from a power delivery requirement, so it does make sense. Plus, you never know what AMD is going to come up with next. So I'm glad to see that the motherboard vendors were very proactive. What I'm doing here is just grabbing a few cables, so we know that sooner or later we'll need a Molex cable for our liquid cooling pump.
Definitely.
We will need what do we need a SATA cable for? Something to do with the case, I think, was it?
That was that Gigabyte fan controller.
Oh yes, okay, yeah. So we might not need a SATA cable initially.
I think it was worth plugging one in.
Yeah, it's worth plugging one in because I'll probably sometimes use it test SATA SSD for game storage or something.
Yep.
We have a 24 pin.
Yep.
And now I need 2 GPU cables, don't I?
Yep.
So this card takes dual 8 pins. So we've got 2 cables. So the first 2 that I've grabbed are actually the pigtails. The pigtails. But what we'll do is we'll just use one of these and a 1 8-pin for each individually, basically. I think the pigtails are generally fine. Can you remember the R9 295X2? Which was, what was it, like a 600 watt dual GPU card, wasn't it? Which was an absolute power supply killer.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the ones where they said you can't use pigtails, and it had like a certified power supply list.
Yeah.
And that was the first time when people were worrying about like the gauge of the cables and things like that. Probably not an issue on this card, to be fair, but
no.
Just out of habit and out of preference, we'll probably not use the pigtails.
Yeah.
So that's all the cables we need.
Yeah.
I guess I need to put the actual power supply in at some point.
Does that go in from the side or from the back on this case?
So it looks like on this case it actually goes in from the back.
Nice.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to... and do you know what? I really like this. So you pull the bracket out, you're going to plug the, or I should say, screw the power supply onto the bracket and then just slide it in. And the reason I like this a lot is because trying to get your hand in and connect cables and mess around is an absolute nightmare. If you can pull the unit out so you give yourself a bit of room to deal with, it's just so much easier.
Yep.
So much easier.
Luckily in this case there's a lot of space inside that power supply shroud.
Yeah.
Because we've not got any 3.5-inch dry bays in there.
Good.
So I'm not going to put any in, are we?
No, we don't need to for this because it's purely a test system. We really don't need them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to my box of tricks. I'm going to try and guess which one the power supply cables are. The power supply. I'm going to guess they're these screws.
I'm just going to move this front fan up a bit.
Okay.
Because we're going to keep this in for now, aren't we? Just
yes,
while you're testing that.
And I'm going to mount the power supply bracket so that it's fan down. So this power supply, the Prime, technically this is the old named version, but it's the same. So the Prime TX1000 is 80 plus, was titanium rated, so very clean efficiency. And yeah, okay, we don't need a 1 kilowatt power supply most of the time. However, you'd be very, very surprised. Threadripper alone, some of the CPUs, when you overclock them, and remember this is a CPU test system primarily, when you overclock the Threadripper CPUs, they can take 500-600 watts, CPU only, very comfortably. So we did a build back in, I think it was in February or March, I think it was actually, we had a Threadripper 3990X, the 64 core, with precision boost overdrive, so actually quite a basic overclock, and 2 5700 XT graphics cards in there, and we were actually pushing to the point where even a 1 kilowatt titanium power supply was struggling. So yes, we don't need a kilowatt most of the time, but the efficiency curve of titanium also means that we can get good, reliable power readings, whether we're using a 200 watt CPU or a 600 watt CPU. So I'm going to just run that through. We can connect the cables through the back, I think, because there's plenty of space, isn't there?
Are you sure?
No, actually, no, you're right. Let's leave the power supply out for now. And what we'll do is we'll turn around, we'll connect the cables, and then we'll push it and connect it.
Yeah.
So should we do that
Go for it.
now?
Yeah.
So do you want to do to me to you?
To me to you.
Yeah. To me to you, to me to you, to me to you. I was having to just turn it the other way just for, you know, just to be awkward. I kind of like that. Right, so for the 8 pins, just connect these pigtails. I guess this quite, well actually it's incredibly useful here that we've got so much room down the bottom because obviously we're using extension cables. And that's the one challenge with extension cables versus braided cables that connect directly to the power supply, is you have a lot of supplementary cables at the bottom.
Cable, yeah.
Because you're basically just doubling up on your cables.
Yeah.
Which can be challenging, but I mean, looking at the internals of this case, I must say I'm quite impressed actually.
Yeah, we've got loads of space down there, so we should be able to easily bundle them up and maybe put some zip ties around them and hide them down there, yeah?
Yeah, I guess that'd be your approach. My approach would be just shove the side panel on so you can't see. This is why I love glass on one side and no glass on the other. Actually, I use a Phanteks, was it the Evolve ATX tempered glass edition as my work system. So it's got glass on both sides, and basically I've just put it up against the wall so I can't see the dirty sides. That's my approach.
So which approach are we going for? Should we go for your approach? Save time?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
And this is all 12 volt single rail on this power supply, so I guess in theory it doesn't really make a difference which connectors you're powering up, because you're not going to overload any rails because they're all just off the single rail. Right, okay, so let's get the 8 pins in next. Actually, no, let's do the 24 pin next, because this is a big, cumbersome, awkward cable. So
yeah, you do that, and I'll just connect up a couple of these cables at the top, these EPS power cables.
Perfect. So they're going into the motherboard, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's another benefit to this case. Like I say, we haven't worked with this case before because Leo did the review, so make sure you go check out Leo's review. It was a really good review, he did a nice build. But I'm really quite impressed by how much room there is around the case in general, and I presume that's because you can actually put a mini ITX system at the top of the case so you can run dual system. And the big benefit there is, even though we're not running dual system, and I just want to point out, I do see some real, genuine functional uses for dual system. You built a nice dual system build with a Phanteks case recently, didn't you, James?
Yeah, in the M.2 Pro 2.
Yeah, so maybe like a gaming system and then like a kind of Threadripper or high-end desktop work system, both in the same. That's ideal.
Yep.
Obviously the benefit is you get extra clearance when you're only using it in single system mode, so it's certainly not a waste by any stretch of the imagination as far as I'm concerned.
No.
Right, next up I'm going to wire in these CPU connectors. So these are 4+4, so it's not really too critical which one goes to which, again, because it's 12 rail.
That's right.
12 volt single rail power supply. And I'm just going to plug them in to whichever one. So what I'm going to do before I plug these in, because the way this power supply is routed is going to be a little bit awkward, I'm just going to plug in the supplementary peripheral connectors, and I'll probably just leave them down the bottom and out of the way. So there's my 4 SATAs, which should be fine. I mean, if I use an AIO cooler at any point, I'll probably need a SATA port. SSD, I'll probably be using a SATA SSD for like system imaging and things like that. Okay, sit rep. I messed up. So that point earlier where I messed up. Okay, the camera died, but that would give us a good point to stop before we went too far. So that bit earlier where I said the standoffs were a bit tight and a bit difficult. And I said how I messed up and put the wrong screws in before I got the motherboard stuck. I did it again by accident. So we just found out that basically the screws that I wanted are these smaller screws. There's like 30 of them or whatever. And I thought because there was so many, I only need to use them for the motherboard. But of course they do something else as well. So basically the board is, well, kind of stuck. I can't get the screws out because they're the wrong ones. So our next step before we go any further is reverse what we just did. So let's disconnect some of these cables, get the graphics card out. I'm going to have to take the motherboard all the way out, get the pliers on the screws, and I'm
going to leave you to sort your own mess out. I'm going to get some dinner.
Cheers, I'll see you in a week, I guess. Okay, so now we've fixed my clumsiness. Let's install some.
I don't think that'll ever be fixed.
No, I kind of agree with that, to be honest. Rookie error. I'm not actually a rookie. I know people have only seen my face on the YouTube channel for about a year. I worked for KitGuru for like 5 years before that. I've actually been at KitGuru since 2012. So, though I'm still a rookie, clearly.
You're not a rookie, but you just make some rookie mistakes now and again.
Yeah. I'm not a rookie by technicality.
Yeah. It is easily done though.
Yeah. It's the same as kind of every now and then you'll forget to put a bit of thermal paste on the CPU or something like that, or you might leave the sticker on. Right, so those 8 pins are wired in fine.
It's looking good.
Good, we've got a CPU fan wired in. What I might do at this point is if you want to pass me the 3-pin cable for the rear fan, I can just plug this in at this point.
Nope.
Okay,
where is it?
Fair enough.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't find it, but now I found it. Is there a header at the top?
On the top, my side, so top
right.
towards the back.
So I need to come back this way a bit.
Yeah, if you just pass
There
that
you
through,
go.
thanks. Pass this through. You don't have to do cable management all at once, but it's kind of easier to do as you go, I find.
Front fan, where do you want that?
That can just go into one of the headers. I think there's 5 headers on the top. right corner. So this motherboard is an absolute beast when it comes to headers. Superb. And we were just saying earlier, weren't we, how I guess it's not fundamentally easy for a motherboard vendor to include a bunch of headers, but on a premium board like this, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah, you can never have too many fan headers.
I completely agree. Completely agree. But you can quickly have too few, and when you have too few, it gets incredibly frustrating, incredibly difficult actually.
Yeah, because they're not just used for fans as well, they use
pumps.
Water pumps and just, so yeah, definitely.
Right, so I think we're all good there. What I'll do now is I'll install the graphics card again. There's one. So these are 6+2. Thanks.
Yep.
There's +2, yeah.
It looks like it's just 6.
There you go, there's no +2. Okay. Actually, I can put the GPU in now, I think that's fine. Okay.
Do you want to connect the...
Should be able to clear the front panel Type-C, I think. It's up there by the 2-digit debug LED. Yeah.
Oh, the front panel's there, I can see the front panel.
Oh, it's the specific set of headers for the front panel.
Yeah.
Ah, perfect. Is the in the way or?
No, it's good.
Ah, good.
It's good.
It's actually quite convenient. You never realise how convenient it is to be working on a case build at the same time. It's quite a parallelizable. Is that a word? Parallelizable. Let's go with it. It's probably a word. It's quite a parallelizable job. You can do tasks at the same time.
Is there a problem?
Yeah, just I put the +2 on the wrong side. I'm not sure it's currently the right side, but we'll find out with a puff of smoke.
That looks good. Do you want some cable combs on those, seeing as you can see them?
Yeah, sure.
I can find any. Didn't I put some already? No, I didn't.
I'm very impressed by these cables. So what are these cables?
Silverstone premium cables. Super flexible, sleeved.
So what's the model name is Premium Cables?
Yes.
Well, it's very to the point, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say it as it is, I guess. You're certainly not going to mistake what they're selling. They're nice cables, actually, to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so how doth one do this?
You just push them over the cable.
That was my elbow. Not me breaking anything. Ah, I see. Okay. Ah, okay. That's quite useful. Concentrating because the old tongue's out at this point. Aha. See, I never really go for like braided cables or anything for my own build. I think I got to the point now. I don't really go for much RGB either. I think we've got to the point now where I don't really care all that much about like RGB and braided cables and things.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad, I guess.
Starting to show your age.
Yeah, yeah. All like mid-20 years of it.
To be fair, I'm not really a fan of RGB myself.
I like smart RGB. So when like, for example, if your color changes to warn you that your temperature's raising or something like that, I kind of like that.
Yeah, I like to have a solid colour, but I don't really like the unicorn puke.
Yeah, I agree. I personally, yeah, I like LEDs, I guess, not necessarily RGB.
Yeah.
I just like clean white a lot of the time for lighting.
Yeah, true. Yep. So how are they looking? Oh yeah,
they're looking pretty good.
I think you got them right. You perfected those.
Oh, yeah. What can I say? Why do you sound so surprised?
I don't know.
No idea. All right. Actually, they're not great. I need to come down a little bit.
This is tricky as well. Doing everything from this funny angle.
Rather you than me. Right, okay, so I do some more of these cable combs. I'm going to try and get the cable combs level, because that should look quite nice. And the good thing is here, so even though this is still for like our dry test build air cooled, realistically we're not going to need to mess around with cable combs and wire routing and things like that again when we install the liquid cooling hardware. So this is kind of a one-time job, if you like. And it's probably a little bit easier to do it now when you haven't got extra hardware inside the case.
So these panels slide. Have you seen these panels? You can slide them so cover your cables up a bit more, or if you've not got cables going through certain gaps, you can close them off.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So they are just cable cover panels?
The possibly. I think you can remove those as well, and I think you can fit your 3.5-inch drive bays on the back vertically.
Ah, okay, I see.
I think.
Seems pretty smart.
Yeah. How's it going around that side?
Excellent. Done. Good. I just close the slot a little bit to trap the cable somewhat.
Very good.
And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. This build's looking pretty clean. Ah, right, yeah. So we screw the power supply in at this point, because I think we've got all our cables connected. We've got our spare SATA down there. Our spare Molex, which soon won't be spare, but it's currently spare. Very good. Yep. This is looking pretty good, and...
Do you want to try connect the front panel up, or not bothered?
Yeah, I should give it a go.
What have we got on the front panel? We've just got power...
was it power reset
and a power LED. I don't think there's no storage activity LED.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't connect up the front panel microphone port, but I could not care, because I'm not going to use the microphone port. And it gets in the way anyway. Are you able to see them a bit better from your side, actually? Is there a breakout cable in the accessory kit?
There usually is on a Gigabyte board, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's usually just that like header adapter thing.
Shall we just leave that for now?
Let's leave it for now and just use the onboard buttons. Yeah. Right.
Right. So I think we are pretty much good to go. And the good thing is those SSDs I installed earlier, I've already got the X570 test system image on there, so we should be able to boot straight.
Good. Just hide some of these cables in here.
Yep. Pretty slick.
Good.
Happy with that?
Oh, we need to connect the top one. Let's just connect them top.
It's surprising how heavy a system build gets quickly.
Yeah.
Once you add in like the power supply, the motherboard, kind of start slinging things at yourself. It gets pretty heavy pretty quickly.
Yeah, and when you get the liquid cooling hardware in there, it'll get even heavier.
Oh, no doubt, because you're talking about what? I guess like a kilo of water sometimes. Or
yeah, I mean the blocks though, just the blocks as well are quite heavy.
Where did I put these CPU connectors? Did I install them? No, I had installed the CPU connectors. So that cable that just fell on the floor, that was one of the CPU connectors.
Oh, there we go.
Which is just typical, isn't it? Alright, thank you. So these are 4+4, just wire them in.
Yeah.
And I'll put them into the power supply.
Yeah, feel the weight of that, look.
Oh wow. That's heavy.
Yeah.
Is that the AM4 block?
That is the AM4 block.
So is this nickel?
That is nickel.
Yeah, so nickel's pretty heavy at dense metal, isn't it? Whew, yeah, fair weight on that.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, I guess it's probably quite light compared to like a D15 or something sitting on your CPU socket. You'd think. So D15, like 2 kilos?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess by extension everything's pretty light compared to a D15 sitting on your socket.
Yeah.
This cable tie looks right to me.
We'll tidy those up later.
Yeah, that looks good. So I think we're just about ready to give it a test run. USB 3. So I'm probably not going to plug this in now because there's a right angle. Actually, no, I'm not too bothered about plugging this in right now.
You know what? I think we can get that from, if you push it through this hole here, we might be able to bring it up and round. Because I think it's too tight of an angle to go through the side.
Yeah, okay. Should I turn it around this way now?
Yeah, turn it around now.
To meet you.
You might see it.
Okay. So you should be able to kind of.
Yeah.
That's not ideal.
What?
It's a bit of cable showing. It's not ideal, but.
Oh, is it still getting in the way of that? Yeah, now we're struggling.
Yeah.
That's going to struggle. We're going to struggle with the
pump is going to be there, isn't it? So
there.
We'll just ditch it for now. I don't really need front panel USB because, like I said, this is a test rig, so it's not critical. I'm just going to bury that out the way. So, I think... Oh no, we've crossed our cables. Aha, there we go. That's better.
Do you want front panel audio?
I absolutely do not, thanks.
Okay. You want... And then we're leaving the power buttons for now as well.
Yeah, they're fine for now. So just test this. To be fair, that's the whole point, I guess, of building the test as well, that we don't spend too much time on it, in theory.
Yeah.
And although, there you go. So my idiocracy with regards to the motherboard connectors is a perfect example of why you do a dry test run. Because if you built your entire liquid cooling system, put everything in place, you've done hard tubing and you have to take the motherboard out, that is a nightmare.
Disaster. It would have been a disaster.
Whereas
definitely.
here, it was just a minor inconvenience and a lot of laughs.
Yeah, yeah.
At my expense.
Right.
Okay, so then we're good to test it.
Yep.
Okay, so we've done our air-cooled testing now with the D15. We're happy that the system's running fine. We've gathered a bit of data. Now, clearly we've stripped out the D15, we've pulled out the graphics card and we've removed the front fan. So now it's time to go on to our proper liquid cooling build. So, what are we going to do first? We've got options, I guess, haven't we?
Yeah, maybe pump, res, CPU block.
Okay.
Start with those.
Yeah.
Put the radiator in. We've got enough space, I think, to attack it any way we want. So.
Yeah, I agree. So should we start off with the CPU block? Can we do the fit-ins and the tubing for the CPU block while the CPU block's mounted on the motherboard?
Yes.
Yes, we can. So if we start with the CPU block on the motherboard, then we can mess with the fit-ins at some point later. We'll do the res and we'll do the rad. So I start with the CPU block. We'll then do the res. Is it?
You start with the CPU block.
Yep.
And I'll start on the res.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna discuss what's going on with the res as well.
Yeah,
we just a slight modification, haven't we?
Yeah, we just pre-drilled, or we just drilled a couple of holes for the mounting of the res in this Phanteks plastic something panel. Is it a cable management panel?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
So yeah, we just marked that up with the template that comes with the res and drilled it. So we're going to mount the res there. It might give us a bit more space to this front radiator for airflow. Yeah,
it's quite convenient, wasn't it? Because typically you can have one of those brackets that mounts on like a 120mm fan, and you can mount the pump onto a 120mm fan location, kind of behind a fan.
Yeah.
But here, because we've got such a long graphics card with the beast that we're using, and we want to use the fans at the front, between the chassis and the front panel mesh, and then we've got quite a thick radiator of 45mm, we didn't want the extra depth of the pump res, ideally, did we?
Yeah.
And we didn't really have a big enough cutout down the bottom because, of course, this case is not really designed for massive liquid cooling. So just a small modification. James, like I said, drilled this out and it fits in perfectly with the graphics card in position.
Yeah.
So that should be pretty cool.
Yeah, it should work, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yep.
So as far as water block goes, we've got the EK Quantum Velocity. And this is the AM4 version because we're using AM4.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about this block. What do you know about it?
It's a good block.
Oh, okay.
yeah, it should give us good results. It's is it nickel plated top?
Well, it's very heavy, so I'm guessing it is nickel plated.
Copper base.
Okay.
I believe the CNC machined the copper rather than micro skived.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a bit more. Because that's I guess if you CNC machine a slightly higher quality manufacturing method as opposed to the skiving.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Whether
So
that's better for performance or not, I'm not sure.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yes. It's like stuck to me. It must be full of static.
Probably. Yeah.
So basically, the parts here, we've got an AM4 style black backplate, and we've got a hefty block, and then we've got some mounting hardware.
Yeah. So that's the pump res. So a nice little EK logo. What's that for? That's for a.
It's for the, isn't it for the turbulence or something? Yeah, it controls the turbulence, I believe.
It's stop getting air bubbles in the tube and in the liquid.
Isn't it to stop as well? Because you get, do you know when you drain a plug and you get like that big sink for the water flow because of the pressure profile?
Yeah.
I thought if you got a baffle above the top of it, it doesn't get that big dip in the water. Maybe.
Yeah, which could potentially cause air bubbles.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah. So it is primarily air bubbles in it because you don't want bubbles in the loop because that's a lack of liquid, which means a lack of coolant basically.
Yeah. And if that doesn't stop it, you can replace that with a piece of tubing.
Okay.
As well, that comes in the kit. So yeah.
So it's basically just disturbing the flow to try and get what you want, basically.
Well, we'll stick with that for now, and I think it should be alright.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
And when you've got your RGB lighting on, that does kind of light up a bit in RGB as well.
I think that could look quite cool, to be fair.
Yeah. So we'll stick with that for now.
Yeah, so we've got our back plate and our rubber mount for the block. this block is it's just a beast. I can feel like it's really, I'm genuinely quite surprised how heavy it is. Because like I said previously, I don't really deal with liquid cooling all that often, custom liquid cooling. So it's all quite new to me. I mean, I understand it, I just never really have been all that interested in dealing with it until now, where the CPUs really do command it in some instances.
Yeah.
But the hardware, I'm actually very impressed by what seems to be the quality. And the weight really is just, I'm honestly very surprised. It's like very heavy.
Yeah.
It's kind of CPU cooler, heavy, but a short bulk mass.
Yeah.
So that should be pretty cool.
You mean that probably feels heavier than an AIO pump CPU block?
Yeah, I think so.
And that's got a pump and everything inside it, so you can see where your money's worth is.
It's a solid block of metal, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can see, and then you go, so does the down, I guess that means inlet and that means outlet for the down bit of it.
Yeah, that's what I think, yeah.
So this is interesting because you're firing down at a specific point, and I would assume that is perhaps located specifically based on the CCD and the chiplet layout for an AM4 processor, and then this outlet is over at a less preferential condition, because ideally you want the cool liquid firing directly onto the dies, don't you, for preferential cooling, I believe.
Yeah.
Right, so if I put this down, and then I'm going to mess around with the back plate. And supposedly there's an instruction manual, but it might have been misplaced.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's got.
We're going to do this by guesstimation.
That's got a nickel plated copper base plate on it as well. So you could potentially use liquid metal if you were doing some extreme IHS removal on your CPU.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Direct to die, but
I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong fundamentally with copper plating really for a block, is there? Or for I guess, any contact plate between a CPU and a CPU heatsink.
No.
I think nickel plating generally adds a bit more resistance to kind of scratching and things like that.
Yeah.
I believe, but okay, that's a good point with liquid metal.
Yeah.
I've just emptied out all these parts and I don't know why. Because now they're all going to roll everywhere. So I'm kind of doing this blind, but actually I think I'm just going to load up the instruction manual.
Yeah, where is it?
Don't know. Should we see if there's one in the Intel box that kind of tells us what it's going to do?
I'm sure there were one there, isn't there? I think you must have lost it.
Oh, me! I've only just touched this. Alright, I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where that went.
Not me. I genuinely didn't see it.
No.
I guess this is the AMD version, isn't it?
We could just guess it.
Yeah, we saw how that worked earlier.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well for us, did it?
No, I only wasted about half the day. Installation manual. This is what I want to see. Oh wow, that's very in-depth. Fair play to EK. Wow, that's a really good manual.
Yeah, maybe I lost it. Maybe I took it out and lost it.
Yeah, let's blame you for once, yeah. Right, okay, so preparing the rubber gasket. So you've got the inner core and the outer core of the rubber gasket.
Yep.
So install the back plate and the rubber gasket. Oh, okay, so should we do me to you to get this round? Actually, I'm guessing it's going to go something like this, and these are going to go through the motherboard. Install the rubber gasket and place the metal back plate for AMD socket, the back of your motherboard, ribbed side up. Is there a ribbed side?
On the gasket, or there's a rib side on the back plate.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. yeah, of course, right, okay.
Do you want to hold that in position?
And I'll come and screw from the front, yeah.
No, I don't need that.
Oh, okay.
That's the tube for if you replace this flow disruptor or whatever you want to call it.
That's convenient. Baffle. I think it's
baffle.
I think it's a baffle, isn't it?
Perfect word.
Install full M3. What? Why? Which ones are these? Are M3?
The smaller ones. So that should be M4, I'd have thought.
This one's M4.
I would think so.
So on.
I'll tell you what, let's open this Intel.
Oh no, it does say M4. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, no, positive, mate. Right, here we go. So you put the washer on, I guess, and then the gasket needs to line up. Yeah, okay, so actually move the gasket. If you move the gasket clockwise my way a bit.
Anywhere?
I think that's okay.
In?
So the bottom left's in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the top right out, put the washer on, and then go back with it. Ready.
Those washers, yeah.
That is a washer, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I never remember the washer. What's the other one? It's like a washer, but it's not a washer. That's wrong.
It's like a washer, but not a washer.
Is it like a nut or something?
Spacer?
Yes, okay, maybe it's that. Isn't it?
A shim?
No, a shim's like a spacer, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd just class that as a washer, I think. I think we're safe to say that is a washer.
Right, this rubber needs to come around a bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use this Allen key to try and pull it around a bit. Probably shouldn't do this because I'm gouging at the motherboard, but it's all good.
Yeah.
So to be fair, I probably shouldn't have fully tightened these standoffs. Wait, I've got an extra washer. Right.
Maybe they sent you a spare.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I'm just going to mount this pump in that position that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah, and that's good because it's got the ports to the front, isn't it? So
yeah.
It gives us plenty of space at the front, and it's not going to interfere with our graphics card.
No, and that's just held in with 4 of these.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Like
so
Allen,
if I hold down in position,
head.
And you basically just hex them from behind.
Just got to move some wiring out of the way.
Okay. That's actually a nice looking pump res combo.
Yeah, they're good looking, aren't they, those?
So what's the benefits to a pump res combo? Is it just a bit more compact than a pump and res separately?
It's more compact, yeah.
So that's the big benefit.
All in one unit. You're more compact. You've technically got less connections that could be prone to a leak.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, it's just really, I don't know, just more compact and probably quicker to install as well.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess here in this case, because the res is above the pump, your pump can never really run dry. Is that correct?
As long as your res has got water in there. Or,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless
there's some kind of big airlock.
Yeah, that'll be a problem.
It's very unlikely that's going to happen.
Because I know that's obviously one of the issues. You should never really run your pump dry because the liquid is used to cool the motor. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or to lubricate the motor, cool them or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's more for cooling, probably. Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much in place, I think.
That's sturdy enough.
So there's a couple of screws that need to go on the other side as well, just to tighten up the clamp, but we just want to make sure it's in the correct position first.
Yeah. You
can see down this side there's a couple of these smaller screws that go in there.
Ah, yes, okay. So I put those in now.
You can try, because I think
they need spaces at all.
Washers?
What? Oh my god! Oh, we never mentioned spaces.
I don't think they do because there's not enough washers in the kit.
Right. Okay. Fair.
So
are all 4 volts in the back end?
All 4 volts are in the back end.
Have we just got one spare?
We've just got one spare.
Up against the motherboard.
I wondered whether it'd be difficult. I left you that on purpose because I knew it was going to be difficult.
Nice.
Actually, I didn't. You actually asked if you want to do it, so you dropped yourself in that one.
With my big mouth. Right. So I guess that's one thing I'm kind of noticing with liquid cooling. It's not so much that it's complex, but it is a little bit more fiddly, certainly than air, and certainly than AIO as well, to be fair, actually.
It's a lot more involved, definitely.
Yeah, so a bit more planning, a bit more time consuming to do the actual builds, but hopefully the benefits are worth it, and I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But also I can see that actually it adds a very unique look to your system as well. I've always quite liked the look of liquid cooling. I've just never really been able to justify the cost, personally.
No.
However, I think for something like this where we are going to be pushing the CPUs to the limit, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah. You'll definitely realise it when you start overclocking, pushing that CPU performance probably further than you would normally on air or on an AO.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, it was always kind of years of Intel mainstream dominance. Liquid cooling was just completely unnecessary. Whereas now, with the CPU scene being as competitive as it is, and even though Zen 2 is very power efficient, it gets really hot. And even though Intel 10th gen, to be fair, Intel 10th gen has actually been a very big improvement with cooling, with the new way they've designed the heat spreader and the space between the heat spreader.
Yeah.
But even then, it's kicking out a lot of heat.
Yeah.
And it's not just temperatures that are important; it's actually the thermal load.
Yeah.
So if you're kicking out 250 to 300 watts of heat from the 10900K, that's a lot of energy to dissipate through a heat sink, even like a big dual tower heat sink, or an AIO.
Yeah.
Whereas liquid, you'd think 250 to 300 watts is actually quite comfortable.
Yeah.
For something like a 360 like this, I guess.
Yeah.
So basically, what we did around this back end is this is the mounting mechanism that Phanteks uses for these plastic cable covers, as we're going to call them, and then you've just got basically James drilled holes for 4 bolts that we saw on the front end. Some of them come through the steel of the chassis, and then one of them comes through basically thin air. And then that is what we're using to mount the pump res combo on the front end. So I'm just going to loosen the top right, and then bottom left, bottom right. Have you got hold of that pump res?
Yep, I've got that.
And then top left. So they're all loosened. Do you need me to fully disconnect them?
Take them out completely, then I'll just tighten this clamp up. Because it was just while we got the orientation of the pump res in the right position. Now it's there, I can hold on to it, and we can tighten this clamp up at this side.
I must say, I'm growing increasingly tired of the big 24-pin connector.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's due an upgrade, to be honest, because it continues to prove challenging, especially with mini ITX and kind of small form factor builds. It really is a challenge. It's just overly bulky, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know there's obviously talk of new power supply standards coming through.
Yeah.
I think the 24-pin could be a good one for upgrading into the 21st century.
Yeah, well, apparently that new 12-volt only power supply, that doesn't have any 24-pin.
No, a lot of the cables of the 24-pin are actually not 12 volts, aren't they? They're like 3.3 and 5 volts, I guess, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. It looks interesting, that 12-volt only power supply.
Yeah, I just wonder if it will shift some of the cost increases to the motherboard. Because the power supply is more simple if it's only 12-volt rail.
Yeah.
But then obviously the motherboard or some hardware somewhere has to do conversion to support the kind of legacy hardware, if you like.
Yeah, it's the motherboard that does it, yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's going to add some complexity and some cost to the motherboard.
Possibly, but it could make power supplies cheaper.
Yeah. If it makes power supplies cheaper, that's good, as long as the motherboards don't increase by a disproportionately higher amount.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Although we did see that in... we did see the connection, actually, when I did the Intel NUC, the Ghost Canyon NUC, wasn't it? Was it the Ghost Canyon NUC? Yeah, the NUC 9 Extreme.
Yeah.
I reviewed a few months ago.
Yeah.
And I had a daughter board which did the conversion, and that seemed to work quite nice, actually. It was a good system, that, quite cool. Very expensive, very cool.
Did you see that video using an ASRock Z490 motherboard for 12 volt only?
No.
You not seen it?
No.
That's all on the board. That's all on the motherboard.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. It
was.
was.
Have a look.
Was it Linus?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm looked at.
Yeah.
Oh, that should be cool to see.
I think I sent you a link to it on WhatsApp. So you obviously just ignored me.
Probably. I don't check WhatsApp very often.
No.
I'm not the most social of social media users.
Right. You can just fish these cables out again.
Yeah.
Can you see them?
Yeah, I got one.
Should be three. Yeah?
Yeah, I got them.
Oh, good. Right, do you want to try and connect that up?
Yeah.
Bolt that back in again.
Top right first.
Yeah. We can actually maybe get this right this time.
Yep, it should be right, hopefully. So if you put it down, I guess it'd be anti-clockwise slightly. Yeah. Was that actually anti-clockwise?
That was clockwise.
Okay. Anti-clockwise my way, so I can't tell.
It's always difficult. It's always difficult, isn't it, that? It's like, which way is it?
What, anti-clockwise and clockwise? Yeah, I've always struggled with that.
It is when you're working opposite way, upside down.
Yeah,
when I used to work on cars, that used to be a pain. When you laid on your back and it's awful.
You know, just have to have like a consistent... Oh, I've done this wrong. Just have to have like a consistent plane to need a reference point, doesn't it? That will not go in.
They will.
Might have to.
Keep trying, but try not to cross-thread it.
So that's in position. I guess at this point... No, so we don't want to connect the Molex up at this point, because what we're going to do is build the loop and then run it on an external power supply with no power going to any of the components, so if there's any leaks or any drips, at least we're not going to kill the components. Because it's not a problem them getting wet, it's a problem them getting wet and liquid on them with electricity running through. So that's how we avoid that. So I guess I will leave all these connections actually.
Yeah, leave them for now. We'll connect them up to, we'll connect the Molex up in a bit when we've got everything together and partially filled.
Yeah.
Then we'll connect that up and try and run the pump.
Okay.
And hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So I'm gonna carry on with the block in a second. So what's this?
That looks like a replacement. They usually go below the
Oh, yes, okay.
It's like some kind of jet plate or something like that, is it?
Yes, I've heard that before, actually.
Usually, I bet if you take that off, there might already be one installed there, but why there's another? I don't know. Do you have a look?
It doesn't say much in there, so we'll just roll with it.
We're just gonna have a look.
So you disassembled the block,
yep,
and you found that this is basically is there a jet? It's jet plate. Did you say? Wow, that is hefty, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a replacement.
Wow, that's really nice machining.
Doesn't look like there's any difference between the two, so it's just a spare.
Right. Okay.
Potentially.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You can see the quality of the machining, so you can see where the cutters come in.
Yeah.
And create a path around. So did you say these are CNC milled, basically?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do they do these grooves? Because that's not going to be milled. That's going to be. They're going to be skived or something. Did you say?
No, I think they are CNC machined.
And these small grooves.
Yeah.
Wow, so a really small cutting tool.
Yeah, I don't believe that they. I don't think that EK micro skive.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that's cool to see the inside.
And if you look at a micro skive thermal plate like that, they are much thinner.
Really?
Those fins, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, those fins are additional surface area for the liquid to get into.
And you can even see where the machine tooling comes in.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's cool to see the inside.
I'm sure they are CNC machine. Yeah. And then there's just probably an EPDM O-ring rubber seal between the two.
And now, is it critical which direction that goes back on?
Because there's going to be a direction of flow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of science clearly that goes into these blocks.
Yeah.
That block got so the block's got an RGB connector.
Yep, that's the only connector.
Because fundamentally, a block doesn't actually need anything, because unlike an AIO, we have a connector because you've got a pump block assembly basically for the cold around the cold plate, haven't you?
Yeah.
This is just a block, so it's literally just a block of metal
that
has liquid forced through it, so the power connection technically is elsewhere. So like you say, the only connection is actually for the RGB lighting. Yeah, so that's secure. We can see that how secure that is.
Nice and solid.
Happy with that.
That's pretty right.
I can put some thermal paste on. I shouldn't really put it on vertically because it might drip a bit, but I think it's going to be fine. The viscosity is quite nice in the thermal grizzly, so it should stick in position quite nicely.
Is there any left?
Yeah, I'm quite surprised.
Good.
Oh, I'm doing like a smiley face. Looks like a 5 on a dice.
So I might just go and flush this out first.
Okay.
Just with some clear water, just some plain tap water, just flush it out.
So what's the reason for flushing out?
Just in case there's any bits of fash or anything left over from machining or anything like that inside the rad. You don't want that getting into your loop and then possibly blocking the flow.
Makes sense.
So I might just go and flush this out.
Good. And while you're doing that, I will fit the block. So at this point, I'm going to fit the block. The way the EK manual says, obviously apply thermal paste, stick the block on. Really, I should be spreading the thermal paste. But like I said earlier, I quite like this multi-dot technique. Everybody has their own preference, but the reason I like this is because you should be applying enough pressure to make that spread anyway. So for this design, we're going to make sure all of the... There you go. So this is the AM4 block. They locate in. Yeah, it looks fine. Slight bit of movement, but that should be okay once we fasten down. Put the spring on. I'll start with the top right, and then we can fasten on top of the spring with the thumb screws. Great. Semi-tighten those, and then obviously go for the cross pattern approach. In case you're wondering what that noise is, that's James with the compressor flushing out the rad.
Could you hear that?
Yeah. I said that's James and his compressor flushing out the rad. So that rad's all flushed out, and then you use the compressor, I guess, to dry it.
It's flushed out, yeah, and dried with the compressor.
So I guess what the spring is doing here is effectively ensuring that you can't really over-tighten these thumb screws. Is that correct?
And it's making sure you've got the correct amount of pressure on the CPU.
Ah, okay, yeah, I see. Because you're placing pressure on the spring, which then compensates and transfers it to the volts.
Obviously, the more you tighten it up, tension on the spring will be higher, so it does add more pressure.
Yeah.
But you can never really over tighten it because I think it'll bottom out before over tightening.
Right, okay, I see.
Yeah.
That's quite a good design then,
yeah.
I guess. Because that is something you kind of, wouldn't say you have to be careful for, but you kind of want to watch for with typical CPU coolers.
Over tightening?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you can bend your motherboard, I guess that's the big concern really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you could strip a thread off or, you know, snap a bolt if you over tighten it, or snap a washer, nut, or, you know, it's easily done.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So these are actually not particularly easy to do by hand. I'm glad it's kind of a somewhat infrequent job. Well, maybe if you've got smaller fingers than mine, that wouldn't be too bad. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get this memory out of the way, just so I can tighten these a bit easier. So let's feel that. That is pretty solid in my opinion, yeah. And now I've got my memory modules back in.
Yeah.
So we probably don't need accessibility there anyway.
It's looking good.
So it's a really nice looking block. I guess one of the big benefits with such a good looking motherboard and kit of memory as well is you can still see everything. So I'm just going to wire up the 12, this is 12 volt RGB, not addressable RGB, isn't it? So the arrow for the 12 volt, just wire that up, and we can sort out the cable management for it later.
Yep.
There we go.
Looks good.
What's next?
Radiator.
Let's go.
Radiator and fans.
Yep, sounds good to me.
So, front mounted radiator.
Yep.
That's what I'm going for because...
Hold on, let me put this away.
Going front mounted. Why are we going front mounted?
So the reason we go front mounted on the Radiator is because this is a CPU test system we're building. So it's basically a caveat either way. We can either go front mounted, which prioritizes CPU cooling, but then dumps a lot of heat inside the chassis, which will be gobbled up by the graphics card. So that will influence the graphics card performance slightly. For example, you dump in 500 watts of heat from the Threadripper overclocked in there. The graphics card's going to struggle a bit more than if you dump in 150 watts of heat from a Core i5.
Yeah.
Whereas if we go for the upper approach, roof-mounted approach, and the fans as exhaust, then you're pulling in heat from the graphics card, so you're not really prioritizing the CPU as opposed to the GPU, and you're pulling in 300 watts of heat from the graphics card, so certainly not ideal.
No.
Compromise either way, but we think front mounted is probably the better compromise for our situation.
You would think it's more optimal for CPU cooling. And we've got the option to put the fans in between the front panel, the front outer panel, and the front inner panel of the chassis.
Yeah, and that's kind of an underrated design feature in the case, in my opinion. I personally quite like that, because there's always a debate whether you have the fans in front of the rad pushing through, or whether you have them behind the rad pulling air through.
Yeah.
The one big thing I like about having the fans in front of the rad is that you don't have to worry about cables or anything else from your internal build getting caught in the fan and causing real headaches.
Yeah.
So that's a big benefit in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then also you're kind of closer to the filter, so one would hope that you've got a higher pressure profile because you're close to that filter, so it's not going to block as much airflow.
Yeah. And have we mentioned these fans?
So these are the EKWB, these are the Vadars, and the Furious Vadar Evo, sorry.
Yeah.
So we specifically picked these because they're 120, so you've got a good pressure profile, obviously compared to 140. Plus we wanted 3x120, so 360. But these go from 750 to 3000 RPM. Now 3000 RPM is probably going to be quite painful to listen to. However, on those warm ambience with those 300, 400, 500 watt overclocks, the extra fan speed is going to be absolutely critical. Cooling is heavily influenced by airflow. If you can spin your fans faster, theoretically you should be pushing more flow through your radiator, which will increase your cooling capacity. So yes, they're going to be loud, but they're good quality, they've got a really good range, and they should give us plenty of cooling headroom. Yeah. I was actually genuinely impressed by the range, going from 750 to 3000, that's like a 25% to 100% fan speed range, so that really is genuinely quite impressive actually.
Yeah.
Well, what are the details? So dual ball bearing fans, 50,000 hours MTBF, 5.64 watts, which is not really that much for a fan, is it? Because were you talking about some fans the other day which were over 1 amp, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. I can't remember what we were talking about.
I can't remember which fans they were. I think there was some form of high-speed fan, but 5.6 watts is like just under half an amp on the 12-volt header, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, some of the high-speed fans can get really aggressive to the point where actually you might need more power to the fan, because some of the fan headers are typically like 1 amp or 2 amps.
Yeah, you don't want to overload a fan header and blow it up, do you?
Ideally not, no. Not that Leo would know anything about that.
Oh, is that one trick that Leo does, is it?
I'm not sure, you'll have to ask him.
Alright.
Ask him in the comment section down below, actually.
Yeah. Want to lift that radiator up a little bit, what do you think?
Don't know, looks fine to me. What do you think? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that could be good, why not?
What do you think? What does that look like? Although it's not about looks, but...
No, well I guess there is some benefit actually, because you got the tube in ports just above the top of the motherboard, so
yeah,
gives you a bit of clearance maybe. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. Just noticed something about this case that could be improved.
What's that?
There's not really any cutouts for your fan cables if you've got your fans on this front panel.
Oh really?
There's just one at the top.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a bit...
And sometimes you find like 3.
Yeah, so that's going to be quite difficult to route the bottom fan.
Well, we've got that 3-way splitter.
Ah, okay, good.
So we can just connect them all up.
Yeah.
And you've got these red cables as well, so hopefully we can hide these red cables behind this front panel.
Yeah.
And then just a normal black cable.
Ah, okay, perfect.
You're not going to see inside because red's not really going to...
It won't go with the colour scheme.
No,
not one bit. Which again, function over form, but it would be good if it looks good.
Yeah.
And I think so far it's looking pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah, it's looking decent. I do like that motherboard.
Yeah, that's really slick. Really slick.
Yeah.
I'm not fully in favour of motherboard covers because sometimes they're more hassle than they're worth.
Yeah.
So if you install, I don't know, maybe a liquid cooled graphics cards or whatever, and you just want to upgrade and add a new SSD, a new M.2 SSD, you need to disassemble basically all your system just to install M.2 SSD. But if you're going for an original build, you're probably not going to upgrade too often. They look absolutely slick.
Yeah.
They look really, really good, especially this board. Why is it so difficult? Gigabyte... No, I'm going to give Gigabyte very much a lot of credit here, actually, because they have been taking heatsink designs for their VRM very, very seriously for the past couple of generations at least.
Yeah.
And they deserve a lot of credit. I think some of the other vendors could learn a thing or two, because a large block of metal, while it might look fine, or while it might actually cool fine in practice, theoretically it's not very efficient heatsink, whereas that is an efficient heatsink.
Yeah, it's got
plenty of surface area.
Nice black coating as well. On that
yeah, it has, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at this stage now where we need to do fittings. So basically we've got fittings for the block, fittings for the pump res combo, and obviously fittings for the rad.
Yeah.
So what's our plan with regards to fittings, and then what size tubing is this?
That is, I think that's 10mm internal diameter, 13mm outer diameter.
So it's this one, isn't it? EKWB.
Yeah.
To say? Doesn't say, so I'll take your word for it.
I'm sure it's 1013.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Or 1012.7, something like that.
Oh, so half inch then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's go with, so we said what we're going to use. So this is the inlet, isn't it? And basically what we want is the inlet has to go to, or basically the outlet from the pump res combo was to the inlet for the block. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Then the outlet from the block goes to the inlet on the rad.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Then the outlet from the rad goes to the inlet on the pump res combo.
Yeah.
So that contains your loop.
Really simple because we've got no GPU.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah.
But importantly, because this is a CPU test system, we want to be able to remove the motherboard and CPU block quite quickly. So the key thing for us here is going to be quick disconnect tubing, so that we can leave all the liquid cooling hardware in place, and then we can just remove the motherboard and block very quickly, and then switch out to a different motherboard with platform and a different block. So the quick disconnect is going to have to be somewhere between the block and whatever the block connects to, basically. So we can switch out the block pretty easily.
Like we said, it's not going to look great.
No, it's not for form. It should look alright, but it's not going to look as good as it could, I guess.
No.
But it's functional.
That's right. Yeah.
So should we start off with the tubing? The connectors.
Yeah.
So what did we say? So basically we got to run from here to here.
Yeah.
So if we kind of line this up, it's kind of something like this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we roughly want to avoid the big GPU as well.
Yeah.
So if we're coming in this loop, rather than going quite tight like that, because like I said, that's going quite near the side panel, isn't it?
Could potentially be up against your tempered glass side panel,
And I guess it's added quite a bit of a rad on there as well, which ideally we don't really want.
No.
We could do something like a connection like that.
I think we'll put a 90.
So 90.
Maybe 90 down there.
Is a 90 vertical kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then come in with
and
like
then a 45.
45?
Yeah.
Okay.
Try that, see how it looks.
So we grab one of the 45s.
Yeah, I've got a 90.
What are these then? These are STC Classics. So these are these nickel fittings again?
These are nickel with a chrome, like a high gloss chrome nickel finish.
Oh, okay.
The brass fittings.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Obviously, brass because brass is quite good with the conductivity, so isn't it? So you don't mess around with like corrosion and things like that.
Yeah, and it works well with copper.
Oh, okay.
In a loop, yeah.
It's not reactive with copper.
Yeah. So
there's that first 45 on, but now I believe
I'll tighten than that.
Yeah, so just hand tighten.
Yeah.
And then we put the 90 on here.
90 on there, yeah.
So you said these ones are hand tightened, aren't they? And they've basically got a rubber O-ring, which creates the seal, so that hopefully you shouldn't get any leaks.
Yeah, this is a single rubber O-ring seal. Yeah.
And when you hand tighten these bottom parts, the way they're designed is that you can still move these freely.
Yep.
While keeping the tightness on those bottom bits.
Yep.
So now what do we have to do now? Can we wire the tubing straight into that, or?
No, they need a straight compression fitting into those.
One of these, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how does this work then?
There's a collar on the outside on the top of that, so if you just take that collar off once you get it out of the bag.
Yeah, I broke the bag. Oh, this is a good start.
You seem to be breaking a lot of things today.
It's just in my nature, I say. So
that outer collar should just come off.
So screw off.
Yeah, that screws off.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So this is the compression fitting.
That is technically a compression fitting.
Are we putting so we'd be putting. So how would it go?
You need to slide that collar down the tubing first.
The tubing this way.
That way, yeah.
We put the tubing on there, and then we tighten it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is your seal. That is your watertight seal.
Ah, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
But first, you need to thread that piece into that 45.
Okay.
You can technically use this Allen key, this EK Allen key, to tighten that up.
Shall I give that a go?
That slides down the centre of the fitting. One side will. Yeah.
Ah, I see.
But on those rotating fittings, they don't work amazingly. But you still get a bit of torque there. I think
I can feel it tightening. So
I have a feeling that those Allen keys are designed to shear if you put too much torque on them.
Oh, okay.
I think I remember writing a news piece or something like that about those when they were launched. I think they were designed to shear.
Okay, that's quite smart. So you can't over tighten them.
Technically not, no, but I wouldn't like to push it too far.
Yeah, okay. To be fair, it's just turning on the rotating fitting before I'm putting enough stress.
Yeah,
to
that
anyway.
is it. Yeah, but if you was directly into the CPU block,
probably put plenty of torque on there. Yeah. So now at this stage, I guess I'll put my other compression. So I've got the collar ready on the.
You may as well put another straight on this 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
just have a check at those. Just make sure they're nice and tight. That one feels good. Yeah, they feel good.
So remove my collar again.
I think what we'll do is we'll put a full length of tubing between the two fittings, and then we'll just cut it to put us quick disconnecting afterwards.
Okay. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, I think we've got plenty of tubing, so we should be alright with that.
I could actually feel that bending, so I'm not going to push it any further because perhaps would shear.
Yeah.
Oh, stuck. Come on.
Just give it a wiggle.
There we go.
Yep.
Right, perfect. So, and here's the collar ready for this. So, basically, I can take the collar off at this point.
So you could just, if you want, we need some scissors.
Snip, snip.
1 sec.
Yep.
So you could roughly measure that out.
Yeah, okay. So if I positioned it kind of there, and we think it's something like that. Have we got enough of a straight there to fit the quick disconnect?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So would the quick disconnect be somewhere around here on this straight region?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
maybe cut it a bit longer first.
Yeah, okay. And then I cut it down afterwards, can I?
Yeah.
So I basically want to cut it roughly where my finger is there. So
try and get that cut as straight as possible.
Cut my finger.
That's good enough.
It's not ideal, but
it's good enough.
Okay.
Good enough. Yeah.
So if I put my collar on now at this point, I guess, and here, is it just a case of just guiding it in?
Yeah, it's tight.
So this is the point where you could, in theory, heat up the tubing, couldn't you, to make it a bit wider?
You could do, yeah, but you shouldn't need to. Another thing you could do is just put a bit of water on it, and it'll help it slip on.
Oh, okay, I see.
Bit of water.
Right. Let's give it a go this way. I think it's come down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow, that is quite tough to get on. But this is a good thing, so I guess it's tough to get on. I would hope it's tough to come off, yeah. Right, that looks pretty good. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's good.
Pretty good. So now I can slide the collar on this end. Happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that,
yeah. Slide the collar and I can tighten that up now, can I?
Yeah, tighten that.
This section done. So what is this collar doing now? Is it basically just pressing up against the tubing and the compression fitting underneath?
Yeah, that's just like it's just compressing the tubing, the wall of the tubing, so that should be virtually impossible to pull out of that fitting.
Right, okay. Because it's got pressure against the barb and then it's got the collar, so it's kind of double redundancy, I guess, or single redundancy technically.
Yeah. So does that fit?
Is that an awkward angle, or is that not too bad actually?
That's not too bad.
Okay.
And let's say we can maybe get the quick disconnect in that top.
Yeah. So
somewhere.
If we went something like that, what do we want to do? Shall I tighten this up now, or should we do the quick disconnect now? Should we tighten it up? Just
tighten it up and maybe just cut out what you don't need for the quick disconnect. It's a bit of a waste of tubing, but
yeah. So see, this has always been my kind of slight fear, to be honest, with liquid cooling. It's like, what if you don't get things on correctly with the connections, or if a barb fails or something? But the way this is, I can see the difficult. I mean, okay, I'm giving that a really good yank, and that's not moving.
That's even without a compression ring on.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, that gives me a pretty good degree of confidence, to be honest.
Yeah.
I guess you'd have to have some real big problems for that, in theory, for that to come loose. So actually, it's kind of a nice 3D bend there, actually. Not bad.
Yeah, that would have been nice without having to have a compression in it, but let's hope we can get that in somewhere.
Yeah, this...
It should go in anywhere, really. We should be alright to get that in. So it depends where you want it.
How's that for a first time? 5 out of 7?
That's good.
Oh, good. Yeah, 5 out of 7.
You didn't break anything, so...
Good, that's always a good start.
Bonus.
Where's the scissors? So I guess I want to... Do you reckon there? Or is that a bit close to the compression fittings? Well, I guess we can have a bit of movement, aren't we? Because technically...
Maybe go somewhere towards the middle, just the fact you've got a bit of tubing to play with either side in case it is, an unnatural bend or something it creates.
Yeah, okay.
I'd say we just cut it and see how it goes. And just
sure.
You just want to have a look at that and you just want to kind of eye it in and say, like, cut the tubing where you're eyeing it in, because your tubing's going to go all the way up to there.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So just kind of eye it in, make a cut.
Yeah.
And then just cut the other end when you're ready for it. So put that on.
Kind of there, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, roughly there. Just out of the way.
Yep.
So I guess now I can actually connect this one.
So do you know how those work? It's quick disconnects.
Not really. So I know I press this button.
Yeah, and that releases it.
It's kind of like a hose pipe, isn't it?
Yeah, and either end, in either side, they've got a one-way valve. So when you disconnect them, that one-way valve kind of activates, and they don't leak.
Ah, okay.
So you don't lose any fluid. You might lose a drop.
So a drip or two, but nothing major.
Yeah.
And you could basically just leave those dangling for as long as you want, and they won't lose any fluid.
They shouldn't do, no.
So it's kind of like a hose pipe type fitting.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you plug it in, I guess you open in that one-way valve, which then allows fluid to flow through.
That's right. Yeah. But there is a slight restriction on them.
Slight restriction in what sense?
Well, if you look down there, you can see there's like a.
Oh, I see a cross.
And it'll be slightly a thinner diameter.
Okay.
So you are causing a slight restriction.
So you get a bit of resistance in the loop, basically, is it?
Yeah.
But as long as you have enough pump pressure, it's not that big a deal,
Not
really,
a problem, no.
Okay. So I need to be consistent now with which end I keep, which orientation now.
Yeah.
So basically, because the way we're going to do this is we're going to have this block, which is the AIM4 block, the Intel block, and also the Threadripper block. And then we're going to do a line of tubing exactly like this, and then one of the halves of the quick disconnect fitting on there.
Yeah.
And then the other half is going to stick with the tube that connects to the pump res and the tube that connects to the rad. So really we need kind of, 3 pairs of quick disconnect fittings. Yeah. But 2 of the pairs are only going to be half of the set of quick disconnect. Yeah. So what do you reckon? Do you reckon, I'm thinking small side near the CPU just for ease of use. Yeah. And then big side there because it's just staying in position. Yeah. Seem reasonable?
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
So if I just push this back together,
So yeah.
I guess this is just the same here. Do I need to put a compression collar on top of the quick disc?
No, they use just these hose clips.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah. So there's two different sizes. One for 16mm tubing and one for 13mm tubing.
Oh, okay.
Which is the one that we're using. I believe that might be the 13mm one. Yeah, 13.2mm that says.
So how does that work? Do I just open it up?
Yeah, you could have slipped it on before, but it's a bit late now.
I can get it off.
They're sometimes tricky. That sometimes those barb fittings are really tight.
Are they?
Yeah, and you just can't get them off. Sometimes you have to cut your tubing to get those barb fittings off.
Right, okay.
Yeah. I tend to have them so that they're all facing the same way around because of my weird OCD, but yeah.
So hold on, so what am I doing here then? That seems loose.
Yeah, that's right. Is that pushed all the way up?
Yeah.
Right, so once that's pushed all the way up, they have like jaws that grab, so you just have to push it together.
Oh, I see, right.
Until they're fully tightened up to the tubing. And make sure you've got it, like that.
I think that's all the way up, isn't it?
So it's in a good position on this barb as well, so like in the centre of the barb.
Oh, okay. Ah, I heard the click there.
Just keep pushing until they're really tight. That might be it.
That felt quite difficult to do, so yeah. I think I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and you need to get some kind of screwdriver or something in them usually sometimes to prise them back open again.
Oh, so they are.
So they're not just gonna. Yeah, they're not just gonna flick open.
Good. Right. Okay. That's exactly what we want.
So that's that.
Now we need to cut the other lens.
See, it's gonna be right down. It's gonna be right down here towards the bottom. Yeah.
So I want to cut kind of something.
You just need to be careful that you don't end up with like a tight radius so that the tubing kinks, but.
Yeah,
I think you probably just get away with it there.
So, checking something.
Maybe just cut it a bit longer.
Okay.
Maybe just hold it up to it again.
So if I put that in position there.
Yeah. Maybe just start off like cutting it somewhere here.
Okay.
And then if it's too long, you can always go shorter.
Yeah. Sorry about there.
Yep.
Alright, I thought that's the right angle. Wasn't that's not a very clean cut.
It's not perfect, no, but
I'll have to roll with it.
Yeah, we might be cutting it down further anyway.
What do you think? Okay, maybe that's not too bad.
Well, as long as the tubing's not like squashed, that might be all right. You might just have just got away with that.
I should put this clip on beforehand.
You should have put that clip on beforehand.
Oh, right. What I can do is I can use the quick disconnect feature and I can twist it out. And I can twist it out. And I can twist it out.
Okay.
That's not as easy, which is a good thing.
Okay.
Put this back on, feed this in. Yep.
That's alright. That's good.
Feed those in position.
You could have tightened that clip up first.
Yeah, I just want to make sure they
make sure
okay.
Yeah.
So we've got the initial bend in, the tubing in, happy with this quick disconnect fit in, and we've got it tightened in with a clamp. I guess the next step is to do the same, but for the outlet of the block to the inlet of the rad. And this should be a bit easier because we've got a bit more room to play with really, and it's like more of a gradual bend.
Yeah. What
was your suggested route-in plan with this?
I reckon another 45.
Okay, so if I grab it
and we'll probably be straight into the rad at the top.
Okay, so that can go in
just
no angle fit in, 90 degrees then? Is it 90? No, it's 0 degrees.
Just straight in, yeah.
Right. So what I might do here actually is leverage the quick disconnect to get out of my way.
That's it, get used to using them.
Yeah, that's really convenient. It's one of the, one of the secondary benefits of the quick disconnect really, isn't it? So you can just get it out of the way so I can easily screw this in now.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. Easily, he says. There you go.
It's never easy doing anything on camera.
No, it's not.
It's always 10 times more difficult for no reason whatsoever.
So now I need a straight fit in. Let's go in this. Thank you. So it's a barb fit in.
Yep.
Plumb that in.
Do you want to tighten it with
so we'll tighten that.
Snappy tool?
Yeah, and I'll try not to snap it.
Not to be confused with a snap-on tool, which is really high quality.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
It was definitely to be confused by a snap-on tool.
Snap-on tools are brilliant. You get a lifetime guarantee with them. So if you do snap-on, you just get another one for free.
Really?
Yeah.
Planned this in initially because I'm not too concerned here, and I can cut it this end, can I? Do you reckon that's fine?
You can do, or you could just eye it in the length, cut it a bit long.
Oh, okay.
And then cut it again.
Yeah.
You do it whichever way you want, whichever way you feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I'm going to put this in first because otherwise I find it a bit difficult to measure.
The tongue of concentration keeps coming out. the tongue of concentration. I keep seeing it just sneaking out.
Look, this is not easy. I should really be selling this, saying, yeah, this is great, the best thing ever.
I mean, they need to be tight, don't they? You want them to be tight, then...
Yeah. But it doesn't seem that bad so far.
No.
For anyone who's kind of like scared or kind of hesitant to do liquid cooling, it's really not that bad from what I can tell.
Yeah.
As long as you kind of sense... Well, I guess it helps that you're kind of guiding me as well. But hopefully people can use this video as a guide as well. So I'm going to cut that. Which angle do you reckon? Do you reckon like kind of a straight, kind of directly up and slight?
You might want to angle it a bit more like that.
And kind of come around.
Yeah, because it'd probably be a more natural route for your tubing.
Okay, because I need to get a quick disconnect in there as well, don't I?
Yeah, so you need to make sure there's plenty of length on it.
Right.
Cut that a bit longer than it needs to be, and then
I cut it here.
You can always cut it down again.
A 90? Yeah, 690ish. Oh, that's a dreadful cut.
Well, we're going to be cutting it again. Best way to cut that tubing is get it right at the back of your scissors.
Oh, so you get maximum leverage. Ah, okay, I see. Whoops.
One nice long cut and it's straight. One shot.
Let me try that then, because I want it. Because this one we're not actually going to be cutting again, are we? Because this one's going to go into the end. We're going to be cutting in the centres for the quick disconnect.
Yeah.
Almost had it.
And just bad scissors. That's better. That's a better cut. That's alright.
Right. So now I want a straight fit in, don't I?
In the rad, yeah.
Okay, into the rad.
Are these all nice and tight?
Yeah, I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, that's good. Did you tighten that up with your Allen key?
I did, yeah.
Oh, nice, yeah. Did you snap it?
I did not, no.
Good.
I want to use it again.
Good.
Let's put this straight into the rad and then I can Allen key it.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know, I'm quite impressed by this Allen key tool. I quite like that.
It's good. Yeah, it's a good little tool.
That is uber tight, yeah. Yeah, so I can see this. Well, actually, that's not too bad on the excess length, to be fair. I found a method that kind of, if you kind of like push and twist it in, that helps to get over the barb a little bit, it seems.
Yeah.
And it's good because it kind of springs back. It's just not like you put a permanent kink on the tubing. So this is now my outlet for my block and my inlet to the rad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'd probably say that is a little bit long.
Yeah,
but we can lose that on this cut.
Yeah, okay.
So if you want to cut that, you want to cut it. I can't see it, but it feels like it's pretty straight there. So if you cut it somewhere and it's on that straight.
So get another quick disconnect fit in.
Do
you want to grab those
sure.
ones for me, thanks. Put that over there.
I mean, you could always as well prepare those blocks now by just cutting another two pieces of that.
Yes, I could actually.
And the same for the top for the other piece.
Because I can use those as references, can I?
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
And
actually.
you could possibly even pre-fill them with fluid.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Actually, I'd be keen to just get this done first and then do the second ones after.
Yeah.
But I guess now, as opposed to in 6 months' time when I need to urgently do some reviewing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, alright, so we go there. Just gonna run that in. I need to put the collar on actually now. This one first.
Yeah, and if you want to, you can use these pliers to get these a full tighten up as well.
So that's what you did with the other ones, didn't you? And they just like, they're super tight.
Yeah.
Kind of. What do you reckon for like a. Yeah, is that gradual enough? Or would you be more keen to kind of go something like that?
You go like that to begin with and have a look, see what it looks like.
Okay, so I think that's roughly here. Actually, I cut it a little bit longer.
Yeah. It's better cut.
Yeah, it does come off quite nicely.
See, that piece that you cut off might work for one of the little bits.
Oh yeah, good
so
point.
I'll save those.
Yeah, where's that other clamp thing? Cheers. So the tubing goes on much easier to these quick disconnect fittings.
Yeah, because that's a barb fitting, it's slightly different fitting.
Okay. So.
Well, the good thing with these rotating fittings is it'll kind of naturally go to a natural position.
Yeah.
If that was like fixed and you were forcing it this way, then that might kink there. But
Yeah.
I think that should naturally hold. I mean, if you're happy with that.
Yeah. It's not ideal. It's coming at a slight angle, but it's always going to, I guess, for soft tubing because, like you say,
Yeah.
it moves to its natural position.
Yeah.
I think that looks right to me.
Yeah.
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 Function.
Function is good.
Right. So that's okay. So I'm quite happy with this run. I'm just going to use the pliers to tighten it up. So how do I tighten it up?
You need to get the, where is one of the spare ones? Look, you need to kind of get around that bit.
Yeah.
And that bit.
Okay.
Until you click. And you might even be able to see it come together as well.
I hope I do this correctly. Ah, yeah, okay. Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
That sounds good to me.
So you're really not gonna pull those off now.
No, and I'm pretty happy with our run. You can see the natural residing position, so it's not being bent too far out of position. And it's got a bit of give in it, so I can connect that back in.
Yeah.
Connect this in.
Yep.
Which is... Okay, so they're quite tight to connect in, which is a good thing, to be fair.
Yeah, I think they've got at least a couple of O-rings sealing those, so that's why they're pretty tight.
And I can just mess around with this.
Yeah, I think which way did that go before? Did it go like that?
I think it was a bit more like that, wasn't it? Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah. Sorry, yes, it did, because it was in my way, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There you go, that's fine. So I guess the next one is now we don't need a quick disconnect, so we can just do a proper run from the rad outlet to the reservoir inlet, can't we?
Yep.
So this one I want to put another 90, I guess, yeah, or do I want a 45? No, it looks like a 90, I guess.
Yeah, I'd probably say a 90 there.
And then probably a 90 coming out of the rad as well, actually, so it's kind of straight down-ish.
Maybe a 45 from the rad.
45 from the rad?
Yeah, maybe try 90 on the pump. Maybe just put them in loose and just see.
Okay.
Maybe not, just tighten up. Just go.
So just tighten them?
Yeah.
Just roll with it.
Yeah.
So I can see it's a little bit more fiddly now because you've got obviously some fittings already in, but it's not too bad. You need to get full coverage. So let me wire this up. I think I'm kind of getting the hang of this now.
Yep. It's not that difficult, is it?
No, to be fair, I wouldn't have known about these fittings. That's probably one of the more complex bits, actually, the fittings.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known about like putting one of these kind of straight fittings with a barb on after the angled fittings. But I guess all the angled fittings really are doing is setting your path, and then the actual barb fittings are doing the real heavy lifting work, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right, so what I'll do is I'll do a length of 2, but I don't need to put the collar on yet because I can slide it down the other end. Okay. Get that on. Yeah, I'm not going to complain. These are difficult to get on because that's just a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, so do you think kind of like a 45 into there?
I don't know, maybe 90 will work.
Do you reckon 90 might work?
Maybe just hold a 90 up and have a look at it.
Okay. That's 45.
Maybe a 90 will work. Maybe a 90 will work better.
So it kind of went.
A 90 works perfectly, yeah.
Looks like it does, yeah.
Go for it.
So if we wanted to extend this 90 out further, so say we wanted it to come out here, could we just use a bunch of straights then a 90?
Not those straights, no, but you can get like a straight extension.
Oh, okay.
That you could use, yeah.
But we don't have any of those.
We don't have any of those.
And we don't really need them either.
Doesn't look like it, does it? No.
No. Correctly. Okay, so put my straight on.
It's nice and tight. Yeah, this one needs to be pretty accurate.
Okay. So
you need to put your straight vector in first.
So I have to run this all the way down. Great.
No, you can wait till you've cut it.
Oh, okay.
You need to put your straight on the top.
Yeah, okay.
And then just measure it out. You could just, like, to make life easier, you could just say, well, I'll just cut it there.
Mm-hmm.
And then drop that in.
Ah, yeah, I see.
And then, like, you can hold that now. Once you've got your neck straight up, you can hold up to it.
Yeah, okay.
Mark it up if you want. Or just with your finger mark it up. And then cut it.
Okay. So the difference, so these ones have to be more accurate because I'm not doing any slack or any additional cutting with a quick disconnect. These are actually going in 1-to-1, I guess.
If you want them to look pretty straight, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, a bit accurate, but I'll give myself a little bit extra. So I think about there. get the hang of cutting this.
That's alright.
Quite clean in the end.
Yeah.
And I need to put the neck on now. The collar, sorry.
Yep.
Just shove that under. Okay, so it's not. It wasn't the most accurate cut. But yeah, no, that's serve a purpose.
But it'll work.
Like yeah, function.
If you're happy with it.
Yeah. So actually, link up a little bit further. There we go. So there's our loop done. So when I want to remove the motherboard or whatever, I just mess around with these quick disconnects. Yeah. Shouldn't get any drips. Take the board out, take the block out, or anything like that. When I want to install a different CPU, obviously do the block. Good. The only thing I have to be careful of is I make sure that the inlet for the block comes with this one, and then the outlet this one.
That's right. Yeah.
Why is the inlet and the outlet important? Is that just defining the way that the fluid should be flowing and it is getting pumped?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all it is, yeah. Direction of flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And that it flows in the correct direction of your CPU block.
Ah, okay. Yeah, very good point. Because otherwise you'd be flowing into the less optimised part, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, we've got the loop done, we've got our tubing done. Filling time, isn't it?
Yep.
So the first thing I'm going to do is undo one of these ports.
Yep.
It's basically just one of the fill ports on top, isn't it? So you basically use this on my favourite tool, and I'm going to undo one of them. I can undo any one of them, can't I?
Yeah.
Why is there 3 ports then?
Because you can use them as inlets as well.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So they're basically kind of multi-function ports then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the fill-in bottle.
Yep.
We got there. And what's this then?
That is EK Cryo Fuel. So it's just a pre-mixed coolant. And it's childproof.
What does that mean? You calling me a child?
Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can do it.
Oh. I guess it's idiot-proof as well.
You've never opened a bottle of bleach before?
Nope.
Oh, fair enough.
No, I have the one with the red cap.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah, it's got like a squirty thing. Right? One way of doing it, I guess. So what's this EK cryo fluid premix?
It's a premix. It'll be
is it distilled water with like kind of an antimicrobial or something in it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the name.
Oh, that's a glorious sound.
Try not to spill any.
I'll try not. No pressure.
We should not need anywhere near that full bottle, but put plenty in and we can always pour it back later.
It's actually starting to slip out of my hand. Just squeeze it a bit so it doesn't. Don't need like 300 mils of whatever this stuff is on me. It's got a bit of a smell to it.
Yeah.
So like it smells a bit alcoholic.
Is that just you? Is that just you wanting a drink?
It could be. That should be enough, do you reckon?
Yeah, that's more than enough.
Okay, and then we can just, any excess here, we can just tip back in, can't we? So I guess what I want to do now is basically just stick the straw into the res and just pump and pump.
Yeah, more or less. And try and make sure you keep it in there and it doesn't pop out and you end up with fluid everywhere.
Yeah, okay, I'll give that a go.
That's it, it's going well.
Good. And then when this res gets near the top, I guess at that point what I want to be doing is... Whoops, I stuck some of the water back in. Then we need to cycle the pump, don't we?
Yeah, right, that's enough for now.
So I just drip that off.
And to cycle the pump...
Oops, I got a drip somewhere.
Oh, it's fine. To cycle the pump, I like to use...
Frankenstein power supply.
Yeah, I have messed and modded this power supply a little bit.
What's the OEM of that? Is it like FSP?
It is an FSP power supply.
They're going to be over the moon to see their power supply features now built, no doubt.
It's a 400 or 450 watt unit.
Is this thing older than me? Probably is.
Possibly. And it's maybe not. It's 24 pin, so it's not that old.
Maybe it's not old then. Okay, fair enough.
Although do you remember pre-24 pins?
I do not. I remember 20 plus 4. Does that count?
No, because that's what we've still got now.
Okay.
But yeah, before the days of 24 pin, you did have a 20 pin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No,
there was a point where 24 pin didn't exist.
Oh, that sounds like dark days.
Yeah, that was. That was one of the easiest to connect to Molex
I'm very surprised by that. Have you broken it?
I think there's something wrong with that. We need to check that and see if that's right. So I've got a jumper in here.
Yeah, 24 pin. And it's just a ground jumper. It's a ground and a black, isn't it?
That was a 20 pin to 24 pin adapter.
Ah, okay, so you just looped it. You can use the old paperclip trick, can't you?
Yeah.
Is that what it is, basically?
You get it's virtually the same as what you get with a Seasonic power supply. Yeah. Just shorten it out, basically. I made that myself.
Good, so that's going to short it to kick on the power supply, which will feed current to the Molex, which will power the pump, which we're going to have to... So basically...
So you need to flick that on.
And the second it gets anywhere closer...
When it gets towards the bottom, flick it off.
Yeah, so here's the moment of truth. This is actually the first moment of truth, so... Here we go.
Perfect.
Slightly conservative, but I'll do.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Put some more in.
And so I've killed the power, so there's no concern about anything going on here. And I'll just load it up with some more.
So using this, there's no power to anything else on the motherboard or anywhere near where the fluid is.
So basically, if I just cycled the pump and water went spraying everywhere, it couldn't, in theory, possibly kill anything because there's no current or electricity going to any of those parts.
That's
so
right.
We just have to dismantle it and wait for them to dry out.
Dry it out, yeah.
So now, same again.
Same again.
And the reason we're stopping this is because we don't want the pump running dry, do we?
That's right.
That's when you, as we discussed earlier, that's when you get some real headaches and you can damage the pump, the motor or the lubrication or something or other. So again, slightly conservative. So
360 rad, and it's a thick 360 rad, so it will hold quite a bit of fluid. This.
Yeah. Okay. So it's taking a big chunk. So compared to your your generic AIO, this is really a lot of fluid, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is good because you get the benefit then of the fluid's ability to kind of take the energy from sudden changes in CPU load, which will allow the temperature to stay quite consistent. So that's looking like a somewhat consistent level of fluid there. We'll add a little bit more in.
Yeah, let's keep it running for a bit and try and...
That's very bubbly.
Yeah, well they will clear eventually.
Are they bubbles or are they like fluid mix colouring?
They're tiny bubbles.
They are micro bubbles?
Yeah.
Isn't there an advert that says micro bubbubbubbles? It's like a McDonald's coffee advert, I think, isn't it?
Possibly.
Other coffee is available.
I don't watch much telly, so I don't know.
Oh, shame. You missed the micro bubbubbles advert.
Micro bubbles?
No, micro bubbubbubbles. This is like a double bubbubbubbles.
Triple bubbubbub.
Bub. So micro... Oh yeah, it is, yeah. Micro bubbubbubbles.
No, I've not seen it.
Please edit this bit out.
So, that's...
Probably want to add a bit more in, I guess, do I?
You will do, yeah. Just leave it running for it.
Okay.
We'll time-lapse speed this up.
I'm going to stay stationary in that case, so I don't look like I'm having whiplash. Oh, it is clearing. Okay.
If you know when you leave it to settle as well, it'll start to clear again.
Okay. And it's important to leave this port open now, isn't it? So is that correct? So that the air can still drain out?
Potentially, yeah. And we can also, when we've put that port back on, we can probably tip it either way as well to see if any more air bubbles come and maybe side to side. And
yeah, okay, because there could be some, I guess, in the corner of the block or something like that.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. Well, you can see that is starting to clear a bit now, so...
Yeah, that's good. I'm not seeing any leaks, so I guess this is the point where you do really want to be looking out for
we should be looking out for leaks now.
I can't see any...
Pretty confident. I mean, like I said, it's a pretty like basic loop.
Yeah, it's nothing overly complex.
There's not too many places it can leak from.
Good, yeah. That's just what we like to hear. What would happen if I did the quick disconnect now?
The pump would probably stop.
Really?
Because there'd be a blockage.
Oh, okay, so the power of the block on the quick disconnect would be enough to stop the pump. It's basically more powerful.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Let's not try it.
Shall we? It's only like, a few £1,000s worth of hardware. Let's give it a go.
That's clearing already, look. It's pretty good, but...
Shall I?
You might want to top that up a bit more anyway, so...
Yeah, so shall I turn it off?
You can turn it off, you could top it up whilst it's running, but...
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, let's give that a go. I guess I don't want to over...
That's probably enough for now.
Okay.
I say we leave it at that. Put the top
back on.
That plug back in.
Am I fine to do this while it's still running?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So if we turn that.
You can always give it a bit of a tip now to make sure that's tight. Make sure the others are tight as well. Don't need to go too daft with the tightening, but
nice. Got an O-ring sealing that I can see.
Nicely nipped up, yeah. You can still hear a bit of water moving inside that radiator, so there is probably some air bubbles stuck up.
Yeah. Okay.
Top of this radiator somewhere.
So the noise from the water moving would be air bubbles, would it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
It should. That's it. That's the end of that one. You tighten it up to a tight.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what it does?
Yeah.
It's like a piece of plastic left in there or something then?
No, I think it's just rounded off.
Oh wow, okay, that's...
Yeah.
Oh well, okay.
We have spares.
Many spares.
We have more.
So I did question why so many of these came, but now I know why.
Because they knew that EK must have known that you'd be tightening them up.
Yeah. So again, an idiot's guide to liquid cooling. Perfect. So is this the point now where I want to just give it a bit of a tilt back and forth?
Yeah.
Let's tighten
just tilt it towards me.
Okay, so let's go towards you a bit. Oh, yeah, okay. So we are seeing some bubbles coming out.
Some bubbles out, look.
Oh, well, that's more than I expected, actually.
Right. You can hear that noise as lessening. Oh, yep, more.
Is there realistically any harm to having bubbles in your loop other than just a loss of cooling performance?
Yeah, that's all it is really, but if an airlock got to the pump,
yeah,
potentially the pump would shut down.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Some pumps do that.
Okay, because I guess that's equivalent to running your pump dry.
Yeah.
If there's an airlock there, right?
They'll disappear. They will like just naturally disappear as well.
Oh, okay.
They get stuck in that as well. They get stuck in this like EK logo.
Yeah. Something to do with surface tension, I believe that is.
Yeah.
Surface tension of water.
It's looking good though. It's definitely looking better. And they will work their way through the system as well. You know, air bubbles will eventually work their way through. But it's quiet at that. Definitely a lot less air in that radiator now. And as those air bubbles come through, you may have to do another top up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how do they release then? Are they just basically releasing into the air above the reservoir, above the fluid level in the reservoir? Because the reservoir is sealed and it's effectively a sealed loop.
It is sealed now, yeah.
Yeah. Should we go back?
Yep.
Yep. Looks pretty good.
Yep.
Are we happy with that?
Yeah, we don't seem to have any leaks yet.
Not seeing anything at all. Can't feel
so, I mean, you can always, if you're really fearful of leaks, you can always put some like paper towel or something like that underneath all your fittings.
Yeah,
you can see anything, but...
Is it advisable to kind of put a paper towel and just run it overnight or something like that?
Yeah, you could do if you want, yeah.
Or is that perhaps just a little bit excessive?
It's up to you, really.
Yeah.
Usually I found if you're going to have a leak, you'd notice a leak pretty much straight away, but yeah, I mean, especially if you've got this kind of setup, you could quite easily do this just plugged in for 24 hours running.
Yeah. There's no real risk of damage other than if there was a leak that leaked the whole system and ran the pump dry, but other than that, you're not going to kill your expensive hardware.
No.
Good.
So all that's left really to do now is connect up the fans to a fan controller or whatever you're using.
Yeah.
And connect up the pump, the TAC cable for the pump, and the RGB lighting.
Yep.
To the actual power supply. And
then put the graphics card in just to tidy off the build, basically.
Yeah.
Sounds good?
Yep.
So we're back. System's been running overnight. Everything's fine. You tipped some of the bubbles out, didn't you? As in just moved the system about to get some of the bubbles drained.
Yeah.
It's looking very clear in there. A few bubbles left, but you said once the liquid heats up with an actual load applied, should be fine.
Yeah, just the really tiny bubbles inside the res. Putting the heat cycle through it usually clears them. Yeah.
Perfect. So tidied up the tubing a little bit. Obviously the graphics card's installed. We didn't need to show that because everybody knows how to install a graphics card.
Yeah.
Just lock that cable back in until it's clipped.
Yeah.
Was that me being pedantic?
No, I need pushing a bit further.
It does need pushing. Ooh, there you go, perfect.
Yeah.
So now, because you were running with that secondary power supply, so still no power going, like I said, overnight run, no leaks, we're very happy at this point. So I guess now we wired up some of the fan connectors and it's basically ready for the moment of truth, I guess.
We just need to connect up the front fans.
Yes, indeed. So connect up the front fans and then actually power it on, I guess.
Yeah.
And then once we've powered it on, we can go and do our secondary blocks and do a bit of testing, I guess, as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect, let's go for
Fine. So what are we using to connect up the fans?
So we've got this GELID Solutions. GELID or GELID? I had this debate like, I think 10 years ago maybe, when they had the IC Vision cooler, the IC Vision Rev 2, great GPU cooler. I still got that in my attic actually. I should have got it out. But GELID, GELID, I've heard them called GELD, which I think is wrong. Yeah. But whatever.
What about GELID?
You've thrown another cat in the bag there, haven't you? So basically, this is a 4-pin PWM connector, isn't it?
Yeah.
Technically, it's not running 4 pins. So these would just be the control pins, I guess, for PWM, not the power pins. You connect that to your motherboard, so you're giving your motherboard the control signal.
Yep.
You use Molex for power, and then this can take 4 additional fans. And these are technically speed controlled and powered off the Molex connector.
Yeah.
So it's actually a pretty nice solution, to be fair. And in this case, it's going to be very useful because the fan cables on the EK Vadars are actually quite short. So we can just run this as an extender, but also a speed controlling PWM extender.
Yep.
Very useful indeed.
Yep.
So do you want to wire that up around
Shall I wire that up while you open up the new block ready for one of the new blocks? Yeah.
Indeed. So this is the... Which one's this? This is the Intel block, I reckon.
That's the Intel block, and that is the TRX40 TR4 block.
Perfect. So basically, I'll open up the Intel block, and then, like I think we've already mentioned a few times, what we're going to do is just run a length of tubing from the block to some quick disconnect fit-ins, so that when we do switch test platforms and CPU and motherboard, we can easily just switch to the relevant block for the relevant CPU. Using our quick disconnect fittings, we don't really need to break down the loop or remove the res or the rad or anything like that, which is really ideal for quickly, or relatively quickly, switching out the test hardware. Bag of screws. So again, this is a hefty block, and you can see the subtle design difference. So clearly these blocks, this is actually good to see, so you can see the blocks are clearly designed specifically for their platforms. It's not as if they're just using a multi-purpose block, because I guess that's realistically a challenge with some of the all-in-ones, really, isn't it, where they seem to be more optimized for perhaps Intel or perhaps more optimized for AMD, which is kind of a jack of all trades, master of none type solution, whereas here we've got custom specified blocks for the specific platform you're using, which is again one of the key benefits with liquid cooling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if you're talking an Acertech AIO, I think all their blocks are Intel optimized.
They seem to be that way. Yeah, I have heard that actually. And I think, is it the Arctic freezer? Is it the Liquid Freezer 240 or Liquid Freezer 2, which is not necessarily AMD optimized, but it's better optimized, shall we say, for working with AMD.
Right.
I think you reviewed that, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
It's a really stellar performer.
Yeah, it's good cooler, that, definitely, especially when it's so cheap as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a bargain, really.
£55 or something like that.
It's not bad at all.
No.
So at this point, I don't really need to get any of the backplate or anything out. Basically, what I would do is position it roughly where you think the Intel CPU socket would be, and of course this will change from motherboard to motherboard. So we've got a bit of slack in the cable, but we've already cut some tube in. And I'm basically just going to apply the fittings in the same way that we've done with the AM4 mount. Let's go for that. So these are 2 different lengths. Which one do you reckon is which?
The shorter ones are to this side of the CPU, the inlet.
Ah, I see, okay, so one short, one long on each of the blocks.
Yeah.
Because we'll be doing the same process next for the Threadripper block.
Yeah.
So basically on a 45 angled fit in again. Just wire that in. And I've done a terrible job with it. Oh, no, hands. Here we go. And then a straight fit in. I take the collar off first. Collar off, I believe he's a footballer. He's to play for Man City.
back or left back?
Yeah, I think he was, yeah. Good free kick master. Not that we'll have any mention of Man City in my presence, please.
Why not?
Sport Liverpool.
Oh, right, yeah, forgot about that.
The champions.
Yep.
I wonder if there's going to be any people that just turn off the video at this point. It's like, unacceptable. Hey, is this the broken one? Oh, no.
No, it's not pushed in far enough.
Right, that's tightened nicely. I think. Yep. And then we want another 45 plus straight fitting on the other one.
I'm just going to connect up the PWM cable for the pump as well.
Okay.
Connect that to the motherboard.
Yeah, that can have its own connection on the motherboard, can't it?
Yeah.
Because we don't want the pump being controlled in the same way as the fans necessarily, I guess.
Yeah. Gigabyte boards, you can control the CPU fan header and the CPU option header separately, so I'll connect it up to that.
Makes sense.
CPU option header.
I think you can on a lot of motherboards these days, to be fair.
I've had an issue with some Asus boards where they seem to want to be controlled the same.
Yeah, I think Asus is interesting because the graphical interface for QFan is far more limited than the written interface in the fan control page.
Yeah.
So I reviewed an Asus board recently and noted that point.
Does that look like it's connected up right? It's difficult for me to see.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Good.
Perfect.
So that's it, we've connected up everything. All the connections on the back are all done now. Front panel.
So we're not going to bother with the front panel right now, are we? Oh, sorry, the front panel of the case.
Panel of the case, yeah.
Not going to bother with the front panel connectors for now because we can just use the onboard power reset buttons.
Yeah.
To be fair, a lot of the time when I'm doing CPU testing, I'll just leave the side panel off anyway because it's not really fundamental to what we're trying to find. And I think a lot of people, I've seen some comments saying like, why didn't you do a really nice build, or why didn't you do this and that? For a lot of the CPU launches, or for any review in general, we're trying to serve a purpose. So if it's a motherboard review, yes, we could build, a fancy system with that RGB lighting and X, Y, and Z. But the purpose of the review is to see how good the motherboard is. So if that means we're going to have to spend extra hours just to build a fancy system that everybody's seen before.
That looks good. I was just trying to be careful not to trap any of those cables with that front panel, but it's on.
Looks good.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the Intel block half done.
Yep.
And then if I could grab some quick disconnect fittings. So basically now I only need the male ends on there to the fittings.
Yep, male ends you need.
And I need to grab the collar.
Yeah, you need some pliers as well.
Yes.
Are we going to pre-fill those?
Yes.
So when you got you'll need your other...
Sorry, we'll need the other one.
One of the other ends.
Wait, could it just be pre-filled now? So just worked in this tube?
It could, yeah, but you might
awkward,
get a bit of liquid splashing out when you're trying to push those in.
Yeah, okay.
I'll just get some more liquid. So if you put the quick disconnect on, and then you put the other end of the quick disconnect on, we should be able to pour this down it.
Right, okay.
Until it starts coming out the other end. Or until it's almost full.
Okay.
And then it's kind of pre-filled, so when you do swap over, there'll be like minimal fluid or minimal air in the system.
Yeah.
And then you'll minimal amount to top up as well.
Okay. So I'm completely fine to snap these in position now, aren't I? Because we're going to be filling through this.
Yeah.
Or should I wait just in case we can't fill through there? No, it shouldn't be a problem, should it?
Well, if you put your mouth around it and blow down it, you'll see that it's...
No, I'd rather not. No, necessary precautions as we have been taken.
Yeah, you nearly did it.
In this time period.
You were definitely thinking about doing it then.
I was thinking about an excuse of how I get out of doing it.
Yeah, that's just me filling the ball up.
Sure about that. I did paddle on the floor. Okay.
you want me to fill that while you prepare the next one?
Yeah, you could do. Yeah, okay. So what would you do? Is it basically just feeding in through there?
I hope so.
Well, if they clipped in, it should be fine, shouldn't it? Hold on that. There you go.
Let's see what happens. This will be the first time I've ever done this.
Is anything happening?
I'm just taking it nice and slowly.
Oh, it works. Yeah, there you go.
It's filling.
Genius.
Maybe you just lift that other one up so that when it is full, it doesn't just go everywhere.
Oh, I see. Oh, I could take this end off, couldn't I?
No, because it'll stop the air coming through.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. That's like a bleed valve.
So I did that. What would I do?
In fact, I'm going to take this end off here because it just takes forever. Just borrow those pliers. It's like a slow end piece.
Oh, is it?
Get rid of that.
Oh. Right. There you go. Oh. Yep. Oh, big bubble.
See if we can get a little bit more in. That looks pretty full. So if you disconnect your... There's a tiny bit of air in that side, but it's not major, is it?
It'll come out.
So it'll be a lot easier than...
I guess, won't it?
Yeah, it'll be a lot easier than trying to bleed the whole lot again. I'll get something to mop that up.
So all those pieces, and I can rub these.
Yep.
Nice. That's it.
Perfect.
So these quick disconnects are spare now because they would basically be in line, but we've already got the two there, so they kind of spare this female side.
Yeah. There might be something handy you can use that for. We'll have a look at that in a bit.
Okay. Very good.
Yep.
So that basically can be stood on the side, and that is effectively my cooler, if you like, when I switch to an Intel LGA 115X or 1200 system. Perfect.
Do what you want with that.
So what does it actually support? Is it 1200 and also 2011? Or is the AM4? Yeah, it is 2011, 2066. Yeah, great.
I guess they're pretty similar, other than maybe the optimization for AM4 and Intel internally.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure.
The size is quite similar.
I thought they were, obviously I said a few minutes ago, didn't I, that they're kind of custom designed, but I think it's more the mounting hardware is somewhat custom designed, perhaps.
Yeah.
The block itself. Yeah, I don't know, perhaps, like I say, perhaps the internals are a bit different. Don't know.
We should have probably took that one apart and compared them.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah. I know there's been a lot of work to make some custom AM4 blocks because the way the CPU, or the way the heat is derived in the CPU is very different to Intel.
Yeah.
We've got a monolithic die versus obviously the Zen 2 and the Ryzen approach, where you've got multiple dies all pumping out heat and perhaps severely or significantly different levels of heat depending on the CCD or the core chiplet or the I/O die. So yeah, there's a lot of science that goes into it. Right, so let's park this one over there for now.
Just don't drop that. I might go through the table.
Okay, that is a beast. Yeah, that's the thread. Okay, that is a monster.
Yeah.
But so is thread. Wow. Wow. That's a big sheet of metal.
Oh, take that sticker off, let's have a look.
The old peel. Ooh. That's nice.
Yes.
It's got like a channel cut out into it, isn't it? Yeah, it's got like a groove.
That should, I'm guessing that is the Threadripper heat spreader.
Yeah, because you've got a unique mounting with Threadripper, haven't you, where it sits flush with the mounting frame, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So that's why you kind of need this groove. Very nice. That back on. Nice and straight. Second to do my eyes closed. Right, okay. So this is a hefty block.
So the same again, really, isn't it? Just
yeah. So 45. I'm wondering The Threadripper? No, not really. So even though Threadripper's bigger and the boards are typically bigger and the mounting position of the socket's bigger, still, because we've got some flex with these quick disconnects and because we're not using hard tubing, it's not as if it needs a different mounting approach.
And with using the angles as well, you've got a bit of rotation, haven't you? So
yeah, you have, yeah.
I think even though that might be in a slightly different position to with AM4, I think you still have enough flex on that and rotation in those fittings.
Ideal.
Yeah, because they're not too far apart. The boards,
not really.
So
especially because we've spec'd this already on an EATX board.
Yeah.
You'd expect perhaps an ATX board, conventional ATX, is a bit more leftwards for the socket, but you'd think with Threadripper or either the ATX boards, it's going to be roughly the same position because obviously you've got dim banks or you've just got the width of the ATX.
Yeah. Quick disconnects.
Sorry, yeah, it's fresh box.
Those clips get a nice grip as well on the tube, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They're pretty solid indeed.
Yeah.
Because again, that really is the main concern with liquid cooling. I mean, yeah, okay, it's very expensive in general, but I guess my biggest concern has always been the potential for leaks.
Yeah.
But when you look at how this stuff is put together, how it's clipped in place, and how you've got double or sometimes triple redundancy,
it
gives you a really high degree of confidence, in my opinion, that you're not going to get leaks.
As long as it's assembled correct, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, and we run the whole loop for what, like 12 hours minimum, so we're quite happy with that. So same again, put these connectors on, and then we can fill it through the quick disconnects.
They have a nice satisfying click then, don't they, as well, when you put them together?
They do. You can really feel that they've gone into position. So there, you can feel, yeah, they're quite difficult to get on, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, happy with those.
So let's try and fill this up.
On the shoulder, yeah.
No.
Oh, that's alright.
I think that's as good as that'll get.
Yeah.
We'll just dry that off. We'll remove those things, we'll dry that off. And...
So technically, is there some fluid in here? Potentially.
There will be in... What do you mean when you disconnect?
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying again. So technically, will there be some fluid left in here when you've disconnected? Somewhere inside one of these quick disconnects?
There will be at this side before the one-way valve.
Okay.
You may get a drop or two.
Yeah.
You know, when you at this side of the one-way valve. You may get a drop or two when you disconnect.
Okay.
But it's not going to come gushing out.
Fair enough.
No.
It's no problem then. Oh, sorry, I need to leave that off actually.
So that's that. That just needs drying off.
Yep.
That's it for that.
Perfect. So we've basically got our AM4 setup, our Intel 115X 1200 2066 setup, and our Threadripper setup. So we're covered for all platforms as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, unless somebody releases something that we don't know of in the next couple of months, you should be alright.
Yeah, what's the other one? 3647. I don't think we're going to get any of those weird Xeons, so
yeah.
We're cool. System is built, and here is our go of the first boot. So we got everything wired up, we've checked that there's no drips, we're happy with everything, we checked that the quick disconnects were fitted in quite nicely.
Yeah.
Then our cable management is pretty basic. Let's roll.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I'm going to keep a quick eye out for any leaks. I'm going to get my fan. Okay.
I think we'll do that again.
Hold on. No, wait, what's going on there? Is the switch off? Hold on, have I not plugged it in far enough? Wait, what? That's not good.
What's happened?
What
I got it, unless it's me. When I put this rear panel on and knock something.
the hell?
Stop rolling.
Just leave it. Okay, so the eagle-eyed viewers amongst you may notice that we've had a bit of a change. And this was somewhat intended, somewhat induced. So the X570 motherboard that we were previously working with died So we've switched to TRX40, which gives us a good ability to test out our TRX40 block and our routing. So happy with the tubing?
Yep.
Looks pretty good to me, not too much tension. So let's give this a first boot. Is it all powered on? Do you want to hit the switch? Fingers crossed. Don't wind me up, but can't deal with the stress. Right, that's a good sound.
Oh, that's loud.
Ooh, I smell heat coming through there.
Listen to that.
So they're probably doing their full 3300 RPM right now.
Yeah.
But there you go. So in silent mode in the BIOS. Because I think we've defaulted to silent mode previously, but full speed for the pump.
Yep.
Just booting into Windows. Very happy with the audio profile of this so far. And we've got the 3960X Threadripper underneath there, so 280 watt, 28 core CPU. Let's have a look what sort of temperatures we're getting with a quick run of, I guess, Blender or Ada or whatever we see fit.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for it to do something, but I realised the monitor's under here. Right, so I'm just going to load up a CPU.
I wondered why you were looking at me as if I had something to say that I'd missed.
No, I think it's all good.
What motherboard have we switched to? TRX40 Aorus Master.
Yeah, do you want to go through there? So TRX40 Aorus Master.
Yeah.
E80X, very similar to the X570 Extreme. Which was looking really promising until it literally just died.
And it did just die. We've not spilt anything on it.
No, we took it all apart to check. Usually it's because, I mean, I'm sure I've killed a few boards before and it's never a nice experience. But I'm sure you've killed some hardware before as well.
Yeah.
And usually you know if you've made a mistake, if you've dropped something, or if you've left like a loose connection which has touched something and shorted out, or if you've overclocked too far and the system crashes. But this was literally shut down, wait, plug in the memory module, plug in an RGB connector, power up, dead.
Dead.
Completely dead.
Yep.
Everything else is fine, CPU's fine.
We just spent probably the best part of what, an hour
I think it's a bit more now.
trying to diagnose it, and it's dead.
Yep. He gone. So let's go for Ada 64 stress test. And the fans will ramp up quite quickly because on the silent mode, which is designed to obviously ramp. Okay, there we go.
Yep.
So you can hear that it's loud, and that's intentional because one of the high speed 3300 RPM fans with full speed gives full cooling performance when the temperature really does ramp up. So I'll just check the details. It's, all the RGBs looking pretty slick in my opinion.
Yep.
So we're doing 280 watts TDP because it's Threadripper. The TDP is the same as the power usage, the package power usage of 280 watts. We're looking at, just have a look at the core frequency roughly. Doing about 4.025 to 4.05 gigahertz on all 24 cores. And we're talking about 74 degrees Celsius. 280 watts for over 4 gigahertz on 24. That's really good.
That sounds good, yeah.
That's exceptionally good. Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to touch this. That's not even hot to touch.
No.
It's fine. Fluid fits it, feels fine. Can't even feel that much heat coming out the rad, to be honest.
No.
I can feel some heat coming out the back end because the VRM is going to be working quite hard, but that seems really quite good. So another look. Yeah, stabilised at about 75 degrees Celsius. Now obviously being liquid cooled and it's going to heat up a bit over time as the liquid temperature rises. But as far as I'm concerned, 75 over 4 gigahertz on all 24 cores, that's pretty good because we were seeing numbers about 10 degrees, something like that, 10 degrees higher for all-in-one or decent air cooling on Threadripper.
Yeah,
so yeah, very happy with that so far. Good news. We're done. It's built. We've got it all installed, so all the EK cooling hardware. We're currently running the TRX40 Aorus Master motherboard because we switched out from the X570 board. Working great with Threadripper, the 3960X. Very, very happy indeed.
Yep, it's done alright.
Yeah, so we've had a test run of actually switching the quick disconnect CPU fitting, like I will be in day-to-day usage for CPU testing and for different motherboard testing.
Yep.
So that's absolutely ideal. Really happy with it.
Yeah.
So what are the other bits that we wanted to mention? So you had a plan when it comes to draining, didn't you? Because how often do you have to do draining or like fluid maintenance?
Possibly once a year.
Okay,
yeah.
So I don't really have to worry about it until next summer then, I guess.
Especially with that clear fluid that you're using.
Okay.
Yeah, if it were a pastel fluid or something like that, I'd probably recommend switching it much earlier.
Okay.
But yeah, it should be alright. 12 months.
Perfect. That's ideal.
So for draining, we've not put a drain into the loop, but we've got the quick disconnects.
Yep.
So we can simply disconnect one of the quick disconnects, make up an extra tube with the other end of the spare quick disconnect, and just use that as a drain.
Sounds ideal.
Yeah.
Nice and easy. And no, I guess, no kind of wasteful tubing inside the system.
No.
It's kind of clogging up the space.
That's it, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I guess the other points, we had a quick test run, didn't we? Really impressed with Threadripper cooling.
Yeah.
Looked pretty good indeed.
Yeah.
We did do some testing of the AM4 cooling, and we said, what was it, 5 to 10 degrees that we knocked off. It seemed quite comfortably with an overclocked 16 core.
Yeah.
So this should allow us to push a little bit further, which is going to be important when we're testing future CPUs, hopefully.
Yeah.
Very, very happy.
Yeah.
And now the fans are ramping up. Perfect timing. Yes, our talking's done.
Yeah.
So any other points? I think we're cool. And again, right now we've got the air-cooled GPU in there. It's all nice and easy to work with. That's the other point actually. It's all really easy to work with. So you made a good point that because we've got the quick disconnect fitting on these CPU blocks, we can actually get in there, disconnect the CPU block and the tubing, and if we wanted to, we could put an air cooler in there. We could fit an AIO still in the roof and have the flexibility to run with different setups. So that'll be quite good if we are comparing, for example, how different CPUs react with air or AIO or custom liquid.
That's right, yeah. There should be enough space in that case for that, yeah, no problem. And the case has worked well.
Really impressed by the case.
A lot of
really,
space
really
at the
impressed.
top.
Yeah. It was easy to work with from a width perspective because these big eATX boards have gone in there pretty comfortably. Even with the annoying right-angled 24-pin connectors, they've been fine. I've been pretty impressed with the case indeed, to be honest.
I think it's gone better than I expected, I think.
Yeah, and the EK hardware served us very, very well. It was very easy to work with. The tubing, the instructions were pretty good when I finally found them on my phone. Because I think I threw out the paper on an accident, but really impressed overall. No major gripes, and hopefully the X570 issue that we ran into was just a one-off.
Hopefully so,
Fingers crossed, So, any questions? I think you should let us know in the comments section down below. Let us know what more content you want to see out of this. Is that even a sentence? What more content? It is now. It is now. I'm going to rewrite the dictionary.
New English.
New English, okay. It's Welsh, that's what it is. It's Welsh, So,
alternative English, also known as Welsh.
Exactly. I'm just gonna, reserve my offendedness. Is that even a word? Okay, right. Okay, so let us know what other content you want to see like this. I'm pushing James to try and build a server, so let us know if you want to see an unrated server build with myself and James working together. But hope you enjoyed this. How would you do it different? Would you go for a different system? Would you go for different hardware? Would you go for a different chassis? Let us know in the comments section down below. And let James know if he's done a good job at guiding me with my first custom liquid cooled build, or if he should have done something better. Make sure you're very critical. Go on, I dare you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, James is happy with that, clearly. Yeah. So, usual stuff, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon if you like this video, it really helps us out. Make sure you check on the KitGuru written page, that really helps out, it supports us, it's been running for years and years. We do a good job over there, even if I do say so myself. Hopefully you'll think the same. And, merch store if you want a cool t-shirt, Patreon, all that stuff. We'll see you in the next one, I guess.
Brilliant, thank you for watching, see you next time.
Signing out.